the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's so much to do today. Braun, Pierzynski, Kratz. You know Sergio?
Come join us. You mean the tall, fat, short, skinny, blonde hair, dark hair guy?
Yes. Time of your life. Let's go. Google it, kids. It's been a minute. What's up?
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. You can go.
Yeah,
Or
but
do
then
you
we're
wanna
gonna
wait till a
cancel the
break?
show.
We're going to have to cancel the show, though. 10%
Well-
of us have
Oh,
GI
it's
tract
that kind of
infections.
have to go to the bathroom. Okay.
We'll
You know what?
we'll fight on.
So Russ Dorsey, Mike DiGiovanna on Ron Washington getting hired, Tanner Bibee, a Rookie of the Year candidate, and Kevin Gausman, all in the next 2 hours. It's going to be fun. But to understand what they're talking about, let's charge the damn mound, powered by Teza. And I think our friends at Teza would get a kick out of the fact that this has nothing to do with them, but they might get a good little. I don't know if you should get a laugh out of it. AJ's definitely laughing.
Oh,
but-
on
why
the
not?
inside and outside.
yeah.
How can I not laugh at the fact that all these guys that are full of shit are full of shit?
Okay. Good call. All right. So for more context right now, let's start with Stephanie Epstein. We have 2 tweets back to back to show you. Number 1, a stomach ailment has felled some 10% of the executives at MLB's annual off-season kickoff. It is serious enough that the league considered ending the whole thing early. The GM meetings have become the GI meetings. The only problem with this tweet is
10%, there's 30, so 3 of them have it?
No, executives.
executives. There's tons of people there.
Oh, I was like, there's 30 GMs, so 3 of them. And actually, some teams don't even have GMs, so it's like 2.7 of them.
The article said like 30 out of 300 at the moment.
Some of them were just
But then
gassy.
it could be more.
Yeah,
Others-
some of them
others
just
had
had gas
diarrhea,
pains.
some
They
were
couldn't-
gassy.
Yes.
Some of them just,
I mean-
have a dairy allergy. But update from Stephanie,
Some have
it's definitely
celiacs.
a virus, not food poisoning. And as a result, MLB canceled the rest of the
Of course
GM
they did,
meetings.
because after Brian Cashman came out and got all mad, they're like, we can't have this. Food allergies.
By the way, Cash did say,
Why is my face so big?
because people want to see more of you. This is going to be a great show today. I promise
Oh
you that.
my
And I almost
gosh.
never promise that. So surprisingly, I think Cashman was okay. That's the only reason why I wasn't thrilled with him being the cover boy. Like, I feel like someone should have, if I was there, I would have raised my hand and said, listen, I'm one of the victims of this awful stomach virus. Please, you can make me the poster boy, put me on the front here. We need to cancel these GM meetings where everyone's full of shit. Cashman actually said he was okay and that he was going to avoid the buffet and just have a burger on his own. So he's good for now. He got everything out already.
Apparently,
Trying
every
to.
team in the league had someone sick.
That's a lot.
I mean, that's 30 people, right? There's 30 teams. So, man, 30. Ooh, man.
I'm surprised they didn't start making them wear gloves and do the whole thing from the shutdown period again, right? Remember
There's really
all
only
the
one question.
all the players said they had to wear gloves
Yeah.
when they were eating.
To play
Did
cards.
Ken Rosenthal get sick?
Ken
No.
won't get sick.
Ken is good.
No?
You
No.
can't make Superman sick.
Yeah. Only kryptonite gets Ken.
Yep.
Only bad tweets about teams talking to agents
Yeah,
would
that.
take Ken down. You know, I got more love for that question maybe than any question I've asked, or definitely it was up there. I got people that texted me and said, thank you for addressing the bullshit tweets that get sent out during the offseason
Oh, that
where
so and
people
so's
go,
talking to so and so.
this team's talking to this player, where like there's a billion people talking to each other, So you're welcome, America.
Every agent calls every team to gauge interest, so they're always talking in the offseason. Every single agent calls every single team and says, "Hey, I have Erik Kratz. Do you want to sign him?" And the agent then tells the reporter, not named Ken Rosenthal, and he says, "Oh, Erik Kratz's agent spoke to the Brewers about being their new manager." No way! Like, it's unbelievable. It happens all the time. It happens during the season too. So I don't know. It's kind of a crazy.
Well, it's
crazy
just
thing to talk
you
about.
got to be careful about what you're saying to the people, because I think people get fooled and think that a team's going to sign a player just because they spoke to his agent.
Do you know who gets fooled more than anybody? your friends and family.
Oh, because they try and look at
Because
all
they'll
the
see
bullshit.
the tweet and they'll be like, hey, you get a call from like your parents. You're like, hey, is it true you're going to sign with the Yankees? And I'm like, no. But we saw it tweeted. And I'm like, yeah, but no. And they're like, but they've called you. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean we're going there. That just means that someone spoke to somebody. But yeah, it's crazy, man. Because especially now, trade rumors, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, Snapchat, all of them, TikTok. Like everyone just assumes they know, and they're always right. And a lot of times they're wrong.
Yep.
A lot.
Agreed.
They are wrong a lot.
All right, so let's get to some other actual news. So we will get to Ron Washington in a sec. Ken put out a pretty lengthy article about his notes from the GM meetings, and he'll join us tomorrow. But I think the one that stands out the most, which also makes this week worse for Brewers fans, is that they potentially could be in sell mode. From Ken, those sources briefed on the Brewers' discussions but not authorized to discuss them publicly say the team is open to moving virtually any player on its roster. Now, they already started. They traded Mark Canha. He's a pretty good player. He's worth that contract for 1 year, in my mind. Corbin Burns has 1 year left. Arbitration probably about $15 million. Obviously, Woodruff's hurt. We don't know when he's going to come back. About $12 million for arbitration for him, potentially. Devin Williams is a free agent after 2025. And Willy Adames is a free agent after this season. You want to go really crazy, Christian Yelich has 5 years, $130 million left on his contract.
No one's picking that up.
I
Look at his
don't
numbers.
think he wants to go anywhere.
No one's
either.
picking that
He had a
one
good
up,
year.
though. He had a good year, but still nobody's going to pick that one up.
Okay.
I don't-
Anyway,
I don't believe.
what's
would
happening
agree.
here?
I would
Man
agree
on the
with
scene, our Brewers expert, Erik Kratz. What
Where?
do you think's going to happen this offseason? Yep, it's you. We call on you. Do you think this team is going to tear it down? Because the one thing I will say, and I respect them for this, the Brewers don't really believe in full-on rebuilds. Their owner, Mark Attanasio, has talked about that, and I like that. I mean, it sucks to do the full-on tank mode. The only thing is they're looking at the market and saying it's definitely full of teams that need starters, and they're realizing what Texas just did and that they need more in terms of starting pitching and starting pitching depth. Not everybody's going to get, Yamamoto, Nola, etc. And on the offensive side, with someone like Adames, for example, it's a bad free agent market in terms of position players. There's just not much there. So a few dudes at the top and then gets really thin. So there's a market inefficiency. It's a great word in the front office world for all the dudes that have stomach issues right now. But what do you think happens?
Well, I think market inefficiencies revolve really around Willy Adames. To me, what other shortstops are available? Somebody that can play shortstop every single day. Whether you think his value is high or not, 30 home run bat at shortstop is rare, and a bunch of teams just went through the whole shortstop cavalcade that went into, I think it was last year and the previous year's free agency, and I think it'll revolve around him. The Brewers can move Bryce Terang, who should have been a Gold Glove candidate at second. They could move him to short, and if they are able to get a huge return, again, I don't know if they can, but I think if they can get a huge return, then I think they would move somebody like Burns. Then I think they would lock up a Woodruff for, let's say, a 2-year deal in the $25 million range with a club option. I mean, not 2 years for 25. The full contract, $25 million, since he's going to be hurt most of the year. Then he can come back and then possibly a club option type of thing. And then you take those pieces and you essentially play for 2025. Not a complete rebuild, but they're never going to be an all-in team. They're just going to be a perpetual build team and never go all the way down, but also never go all the way to the peak. So to me, I think it hinges around Willy Adames because you can always trade Burns. But if you trade Burns, now you still have Adames hanging out and you don't have okay, well, am I getting value out of him? Shortstop position, home runs, 30 pumps, 25 pumps from the shortstop position. To me, it's an underrated value. I know it's talked about a lot, but his value on a trade market, I think, could be really huge after people figure out where Chapman goes because he's a defensive first type of position player.
Do you have a teaser in your mouth right now?
Oh yeah, it's a teaser day, kid.
Yeah, I like it. Same.
Peppermint.
I don't do drugs, kid, till Sunday.
Are you serious?
I'm jacked.
It's not a
Teaser.
drug.
Teaser.
Do I have
is
to
absolute-
educate you right now?
I know what teas is. I've tried a teaser. They're very delicious.
No nicotine, no tobacco.
I know they're very delicious.
And
I
the
just don't like
flavors.
talking
The
with
flavors
them
are
because-
awesome.
Well, that's why I asked because I
Yeah.
could tell a little bit.
Yeah.
Corbin Burns, by the way, if
Corbin
they
Burns can
put
get a
his name
haul
out
for
there,
you.
a huge haul.
I don't know. Willie Adames would get that big of a haul. He's got one more year left, and he had a down year for him this past year. Listen, Woody, Big Woo, he's hurt. Shoulders are never good. Shoulders are one of those that you're like, is he ever going to come back? I know a lot of guys had shoulders, never came back.
He's young though.
Still, John Danks was young. He had shoulder surgery. He couldn't even throw a ball from here to me to you after he had shoulder surgery. It wasn't the same. Listen, now Williams, they trade him. Devin Williams, they could get something for him. They got some bullpen pieces they could probably trade. But gosh, it just, I mean, listen, they could trade William Contreras and probably get something too. I don't know. I feel like the Brewers are in one of those weird spots. They're kind of in between now, especially after losing Counsell. Yelich, listen, I love Christian Yelich not only as a player but as a guy. I just don't think a team's going to be willing to take on 130. So that's what, $26 million a year for Christian Yelich. He's had some down years. He had a better year this year, Kratz. It's just a weird spot they're in because I don't think deep down they ever thought Counsell would leave. I know the reports are saying, they thought this was possible, but yeah, I just don't think that they ever thought he would truly leave. He'd always just be there. So losing him was the start of the dominoes. And then my boy Corbin Burns, who's obviously my favorite player since I have his card every day. I mean, he's got to be next. If you don't want to do a full rebuild, you trade Corbin Burns, get some major league talent back, and start for 24 and 25.
But this is why I'm saying Adames, because both of them are going to be gone after 25. I mean, after 24. So if Adames doesn't get you value, which when teams are looking at Adames' value, yes, they could be buying low, but you just said nobody's going to take Yelly because he just had, he had a couple down years and now he had an up year. So then it would be, they should trade him. But Adames had a down year, so they won't get as much value. To me, his value is in the fact that he plays a premium position. And he had 24 pumps this year, 24 homers. He's clearly unlocked his home run ability since he's gone to Milwaukee with 20 in Milwaukee. That year he ended up having 25, 5 with the Rays, 31, 24. Look, he's never going to be this on-base monster, but his batting average was the lowest this year. To me, your batting average gets better, especially as athletic shortstops. It will get better the older you get because you learn to hit. So he had a down year, yes. But to me, if they can kick off a trade with a team who is looking to upgrade offense, everybody at the trade deadline last year, there was no offense available, and they have it in Willie Adames. They have somebody who can fill in, learn the position, and is a solid above-average defender in Bryce Terang, and then you can kick off, you know what? We're going to keep Devin Williams because he'll be our closer for 2025. He can hit free agency. And then they have always done a good job of filling in pieces, getting pieces here and there to sustain you for the season. And that's not even saying that the season's going to be a wash in 24, but that's only if the Cubs don't go all in. If the Cubs go all in, I think then the Central is theirs. And if the Cardinals get 3 starting pitchers, but anyway, that's where I think it lies. Because if you just get rid of Burns, it feels like, okay, well, what are we getting for Burns? Are we getting
a lot?
But what are you getting? A big league starting pitcher?
What other teams do shouldn't dictate what you do. So whatever the Cubs do, that shouldn't dictate what the Brewers do.
No. That was more on. I'm saying that their chances in the Central. They're probably not going to win the Central this year.
And I feel like
honestly, plus Freddie Peralta is another guy they might want to think about. I know he's signed through 26 with club options and 25 and 26. They're cheap club options. They could probably get something pretty good for him too. The thing is though, it's just what does Matt Orton want to do? First, he's got to find a manager.
They also just won the division.
I
Right.
know, but you can't. You already lost Woodruff for the year.
Woodruff was out half of last year.
Yeah,
and
he
they won
was-
the division.
They
I'm just
essentially have
saying,
their whole team
NL
coming
Central
back.
is not good compared to the most of the rest of the divisions in baseball. Agree?
Agreed.
It's
like
what-
the AL Central.
Yeah, AL Central is like in another world, but is the NL Central not probably the second worst division?
By
we have
far,
faith
depending on
in-
what the Cubs do.
Sure.
And usually we
No,
count
the
on
Cubs
we usually
are-
count on the Cardinals being halfway decent. This year they were awful.
Right, and they're going to get better. I would think they're going to be better next year. I think the Cubs are going to be probably a little bit better, assuming that they do some things in the offseason. Pirates, probably about the same.
Pirates are always about the same.
Yeah.
Feels like.
About the same. It's a nice
Pirates
ballpark.
they're gonna slowly matriculate to about third place in the division, and
And then come back down.
then they'll be like, oh well, these two people that we were hoping were going to be superstars aren't.
Red should be
So-
better though.
Reds, I love. I think they're going to be good if they pick up a couple pitchers, which we'll get to all that.
That costs money.
It does cost money. Let's see what happens. Poll question, and we'll get to Russ Dorsey on the other side. This is big. Oh, first off, while I have it, discount code FOUL, FOUL, for 20% off your first order at TizaEnergy.com. I'm going to be lit. Got some Tiza. If you're a dipper, no nicotine, no tobacco, go Tiza.
Go with the peppermint.
Do you want to hear?
Delicious.
Yeah, agreed. Do you want to hear AJ Pierzynski talk about the Bears on foul territory? That is our poll question. Yes, no, or it's better than when he talks about Florida. Can I get a promise from you? If the answer no wins, can we smash it? Or is it going to be a mad dog situation where we still talk about it?
Oh, we're talking about it. I don't care what the people say.
Oh,
people
so I don't,
want, the
why are
people
we
don't
even
always
doing the
get.
poll then? Russ, exactly. Thank you. Be right back.
Russ has got his Royal Sox shirt on. I hear what you're saying about the analytics, and I hear what you're saying about people inside the organization. But how do the Yankees fix this? What's the road to fixing this? Is Brian Cashman didn't say fans are clamoring like we need to blow this up, we need to start over. Brian Cashman was defensive, defiant, right? About like this isn't the problem, this is that, we're fucking good. But how do they fix this? Because I just asked Erik Kratz, name me one offensive player that the Yankees have developed since Aaron Judge, and we couldn't come up with one.
No, I mean it's tough, and AJ, you bring up yet another point that was contended yesterday was about their minor leagues, and one of the things Brian said was how great their player development is, and the proof is in the proverbial pudding, and it just really isn't there. And by the way, a lot of the coaches that Aaron Judge was helped along the way, and he has said has helped him along the way in his player development. When he was in the minor leagues, those coaches aren't there anymore. They've systematically gutted their system of, again, there's some exceptions here and there, but for the most part of experienced, battle-tested coaches. And I don't have to, I feel like I'm almost talking down to you, AJ and Eric. I mean, you guys certainly know this better than me. But everything, when I've talked to players over the years, those battle-tested coaches who have seen everything twice in their careers were invaluable to so many players when they were coming up through the minor leagues. And the Yankees have again systematically just gotten rid of those guys and replaced them overwhelmingly with numbers guys.
And now back to foul territory.
What's up? Braun, Pierzynski, Kratz, and Stadium's Russ Dorsey with us right now on FT. Wow. Where do we begin?
That shirt's
Well,
fire.
That shirt is fire.
He's
Thank
got his
you.
Royal Sox shirt on.
Shout out to my friends at Homage.
Okay. Do they not make shirts that are a little bit bigger though?
All
Stop.
right.
Stop
Here
it.
we go.
Scott called. He wants his shirt back.
Can I, you know what? I actually want to start with, let's start with Ron Washington. Okay. Let's give him some love. It's his first manager gig in 10 years and he signs with the Angels. We're going to talk to Mike DiGiovanna later about the difficult task of being the manager of the Angels when you have your owner dad breathing over your neck, telling you what to do with everything. But what do you think about the move? I mean, I don't think anybody's going to have something negative to say about this edition. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm with you, Scott. I think when you look at Ron Washington and you look at his time in Texas, those are some really successful teams. His last year before they moved on from Ron Washington, they weren't great, but you talk about back-to-back World Series appearances, and then it's been nearly a decade since he had gotten an opportunity to manage again. Goes down to Atlanta where, he helps guys like Dansby Swanson and Ozzie Albies and Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson and Austin Riley, turning him into a guy that is a plus defender over there at third base and a guy who's respected around the game. And to your point, you're never going to hear anything bad about Ron Washington. So good hire for the Los Angeles Angels. I don't know where this takes them in terms of their future, because I, like you guys, believe that Shohei Ohtani's time in LA is going to be over this offseason. And if that's the case, I think you're just kind of looking at a new era of Angels baseball. Where does that leave them? I think that remains to be seen. But a great opportunity for Ron Washington to have another opportunity to manage in the big leagues.
Is there any inclination that he really wanted to get back into managing? And with all the openings, is this the best fit for him? Because I feel like he is a energy winning guy. And I don't know that you're like, man, I can't wait to go to the Angels and finish 162 games.
I 100% hear what you're saying, Kratzy. I really do. I think one of the parts about that makes it so interesting is there's only 30 of these jobs, right? And he's a guy that's been in the cycle year after year now, where it's like, oh, Ron Washington would be a good candidate for this team. He'd be a good candidate for this team. And if a team wants to make you a finalist and other teams just kind of want to talk to you, well, I'm going to talk to this team that wants to make me a finalist and potentially make me the manager of that team, of that ball club. And I think at the end of the day, it's, hey, I can get back into managing. I've got to be in Atlanta where I was a successful coach where, maybe perspective changes when you're not the guy making all the decisions. You could look and say, all right, I would do this differently. And, I did this differently back when I was in Texas. Maybe I should do it like this time, and take all that information from a successful organization down in Atlanta. And now you bring all that to Los Angeles with the Angels and hopefully bring that energy to an organization that really needs some energy right now.
Hey, I played for Wash in 2013. It was his next to last year. 2014, I think, was his last year in Texas, right? He was a great guy. He was fun as hell to play for. I mean, really treated people the right way. The one thing I took away from Ron Washington, though, was those meetings he had with us were off the chain, funny as hell. He'd get all mad and he'd start cussing, and it was so funny.
I heard he cusses like every other
Oh,
word.
my gosh, it was so funny. And he'd be smoking his cigs.
Oh, like AJ.
Oh, man, he'd be hiding behind the corner.
Little heater.
Oh, between innings. I mean, he was unbelievable. Listen, I love Wash. Every time I see Wash, he is awesome. Gives me a big hug. I mean, listen, I don't know if he can turn around because, listen, he's 71 years old now. I don't know if anybody can turn around what the Angels have, but Ron Washington is going to make it a different clubhouse, a different culture. And I know this, he's going to make it fun as hell to go to the ballpark every day.
No, and that's what I think they need in Los Angeles, right? If the Shohei Ohtani era is over, which I think a lot of us believe that it is, and you're still going to have Mike Trout for the foreseeable future until he decides that he doesn't want to do that anymore, don't you need somebody that's going to make the 26 guys in that clubhouse believe, guys, we can win a ball game today? And to your point, if he's going to do that and he's going to bring some levity, but also, hey, guys, I know what we can do. I know the talent that we have in here. No, I don't think anybody's out there saying the Angels are going to be a world beater with Ron Washington as their manager. But I do think the value of having a guy that people believe in is really important. Whether they're going to be a team that wins 75 games or 80 games or whatever they do, I think having a guy like a Ron Washington make people start to believe in that organization, in the Angels again, I think that's important.
Russ, do you think that we should have a neutral site World Series? Let's start there.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Scott.
So Scott Boras spoke yesterday, and obviously he spoke about his players, which,
right.
we get all that, but it's more fun to kick around the big picture topics. I'm going to mix this one in there at the same time, because the second part, I have a lot to say here, and I usually don't. I hosted a good chunk of the draft for many years. It should not be during All-Star weekend. It's like you have to like, it's like going into a ball pit and it's like you dig and you find, oh, and the draft is here right now. It just doesn't get the attention it should. It should be in Omaha. I don't know if NCAA and MLB haven't gotten along or whatever the fuck has led to that for so long. It's stupid, but it's just a bad time to have it. And I love the freaking draft. So that's my take on that. But I think most people care more about the World Series situation. So what did you think of those comments? And fellow agent, different agency, Vernon Wells, saying, no one cares, Bob, stop wasting characters, which he was saying to Nightingale, who was just reporting the news, but to me really meant he was telling Scott that he doesn't care about his opinion, right?
Yeah. All right. So as far as the neutral site World Series goes, horrible idea. I think all of us have been to the World Series before. The electric atmosphere that is there when you go to one location, then you fly to the next location. It's amazing. That shouldn't change. That's dumb. As far as the changing the draft, I do, like you mentioned, Scott, I think that is important, right? Because they used to have it in the middle of the summer and a lot of guys were playing in the College World Series, so you want to change it. I understand that. Then you move it to All-Star Week when it's at the beginning of All-Star Week. So it's that Sunday. And I kind of like that because it's kind of the thing that kicks off All-Star Week. And I think that's pretty cool. And like being in Seattle this year with the draft, and it was at the football field and the stadium next to T-Mobile Park, I actually really enjoyed it. I can understand your perspective, though, of saying, hey, these dudes need to be highlighted away from everything else where it's kind of like an afterthought. So do I think they've tried to improve on it? Yes. Can you keep making improvements to make sure that this next wave of MLB stars gets the proper love and attention? Yes.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think, listen, I used to love the draft when it was in early June. The problem that everyone I've talked to in MLB and in scouts say, well, these kids in college, especially college kids, would get distracted because they were in the College World Series. Oh, the draft is happening. Oh, guess what? You were drafted 3rd overall, some pitcher. And then there's like, oh, he's a 3rd draft pick overall, taking the mound. I mean, it didn't hurt Paul Skeens. It didn't hurt Dylan Cruz. It didn't hurt, a ton of guys. Wyatt Langford in the College World Series this year. But the other thing that I don't understand is why they've done this is you used to be able to get a half of season in for your players after you drafted them, right? It'd be the first week in June. Well, you still had some of June, July, August, and now with the way the minor leagues are set up, you could even get some September time for these kids and get them a somewhat, but they eliminated short season. They eliminated the short season league, and therefore by saving money, now they're like, we can move the draft back. These guys can go to our complex, hang out like Paul Skeens, just hang out here, throw some bullpens. Instead, used to get these guys, they'd go right into A-ball. They'd go right into short season and get their feet wet in professional baseball. That's gone. That's why the draft timing had to move. I don't like where it is now. I wish it was back. Maybe do it at the end of the World Series.
Day after
the College World Series in Omaha. You got most of the people there. They'd hang around. They'd be, I don't know, just different ideas. Try something different because the way they're doing it now, listen, I went to the draft at the MLB Network studios and sat through it. It was boring as hell. It was so, I'm sitting there like, oh my God.
Well, we're going to change that at FC.
Right, but they need to come up with a better way. I like that it's in person. I love that the people are there. But gosh, there's got to be a better way, Russ. So come up with it and be the next commissioner.
No, I don't want those problems. I don't want those problems being the commissioner. But I think they
want that paycheck, though.
Not wrong. Not wrong. I think there have been some additions like the draft lottery. You talk about excitement, things being boring as hell. Going to the winter meetings and seeing the draft lottery for the first time last year, it was an event. Like people were amped up in that room. And so like you're starting to see incremental steps. Is like, all right, how can we make this more like the NBA draft? How do we make this more like the NFL? You'll never be that because the sports are different. But like, can you make appropriate steps to try to improve? And I think the idea of you guys are not the first ones that I've heard say, yo, take that thing to Omaha. And I think it makes sense. AJ, to your point about the development of players and like not being able to have that half a season in the minor leagues, I think that's why you're seeing more teams now being aggressive where Wyatt Langford finished the season in AAA and like held his own, right? Nolan Shanaway was playing in the big leagues with the Angels. So I think teams are trying to figure out what works for them. And obviously that depends on the player. But yeah, you're going to see some of these guys that aren't top 10, top 15 picks going to suffer when it comes to development because they can't get that time.
And that's where a ton of value is. You're paying for the Wyatt Langfords. You're paying for all your first rounders. The guys down in the draft, while they don't hit as often,
Yeah,
you're getting a lot of value. So speaking of value, which Chicago topic would you like to talk about first? Would you like to talk about how Pedro Grifol all of a sudden doesn't like the team that he loved? Or would you like to talk about the fact that Craig Counsell absolutely undercut David Ross's job?
Let's talk about both, but let's get to Getz and Pedro Grifol first, because something for me that I think is really interesting as a reporter, I love honesty. I think honesty is something that people don't really understand the value. If you're honest, you can save yourself a lot of headaches. And I think the more people start to realize that, the better off they will be. I think I have no problem. Obviously, I'm not a fan with Chris Getz, GM of the White Sox, saying, I don't like our team, right? Because when you look at the way the White Sox played, why would somebody like that team that finished the 2023 season? And if you're supposed to get this team where you want it to go, being honest about that and saying, I don't like this team and we need to make changes, which was the entire quote. Like, we need to make steps to improve this roster. I don't see anything wrong with that. And I don't think that there's any GMs that would disagree if they were in a similar situation. The part about Pedro Grifol, hey man, like, I think it was at the end of that year for the White Sox. I think it was a lot of just trying. Can we get to the end of the season? Can we get to October 1st where everybody can just go home and then we can come back in 2024 with different faces, different characters, and try to go from there. The White Sox are in an interesting position, and we talked about them throughout the year. Like, we all saw it coming. I think that's my thing with the White Sox. Like, we all saw the way the season was going to go for them. And now, after everything that's happened, where you move on from Tim Anderson and, Pedro Grifol returns, and Kenny and Rick Hahn are no longer in power in the front office, and you have Chris Getz, who has kind of been there and kind of seen the way this thing has gone in the minor leagues, and now he's the guy. I don't think it's going to be an easy couple of years for the White Sox, just because when you look at that minor league system, it's not great. And then you look at the major league roster, also not great. So Chris Getz is going to have some work to do.
All right, so now let's talk about how in 2014, Renteria got bounced, and you said Rick Renteria when Joe Madden became available as they began their winning window.
Yeah.
Is this really the next winning window?
Yes. I think that's what the Cubs believe. I think when you look at, and we talked about it last week, where you asked me, what's the biggest surprise? And I didn't know it was this. I said, one of these managerial hires. I would have loved to have said, hey, breaking right here on foul territory. I was as shocked as everybody, right? And I think when you talking to people in the industry this week, I think people were blown away that a team that had a manager that seemed to be perfect for the job in David Ross said, Rossi, we love you, but we have a guy that we believe can take us to the next level right now. And I think time and time again, you would hear, Jed Hoyer say, we believe that Rossi is going to be a terrific manager in the big leagues, right? But if a guy becomes available that you already know is a top 5 manager in the big leagues, if you're going to be one of these teams that is constantly in contention and you think that's going to be the difference between you being here and being here, I can understand them wanting to make that move. Now, to that point, I don't think that makes it any easier for a guy like David Ross, who had been in that front office, who had learned under Theo and Jed, and then became the guy in the seat. And people in that organization love David Ross, and rightfully so. Like, obviously, everything he did in 2016 team, getting that first World Series, first time in 108 years, but seeing the way that players responded to him, seeing the way that coaching staff responded to him, it was surprising. And I imagine for Jed, especially Jed and Carter Hawkins, that was the toughest part of this decision, was having to tell David Ross, hey, we're moving on and going to somebody else.
So why is this the winning window? Like, I get it, 2014. I mean, your starting lineup for the 2013 Cubs Wellington Castillo, Anthony Rizzo, Darwin Barney, Starlin Castro, Luis Valbuena, Alfonso Soriano, David De Jesus, and don't forget Nate Shearholtz. So that was their 2013 compared to 2023 starting lineup. What are they pushing? What are they pushing forward? Who are the pieces that are coming up? Who's the Javier Baez? Who's the Chris Bryants? Who is the who else was coming up through that time?
John Lester. Where's John Lester? Where's John Lackey? Where's Kyle Schwarber? There's a whole list of guys.
Kyle Schwarber was coming up with them.
Right. So when you look at it, so they hired Joe Madden October 2014, and then next season was 2015 when they did all their winning. You sign Lester, right? Schwarber comes up, does his thing. Chris Bryant comes up, Javi, all those guys. You already had Rizzo. I look at the Cubs this time around, 9 years later. You went out and you signed Dansby Swanson, right? You went out 2 years ago and you signed Seiya Suzuki. You brought him over. And then now you bring Tyon in last year. You look at this offseason in free agency. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani is the big fish out there. And I've talked to you guys about it. I had been told by some sources that the Cubs would be involved in the Shohei Ohtani bidding. Will they get him? I think there are going to be a lot of teams involved that want Shohei Ohtani. Makes perfect sense. But this is the time to strike, right? You don't bring Dansby Swanson in and tell him, hey, man, we're just going to be like, okay, and not spend money. The Cubs have been a team that, after you move on from Baez and Bryant and Rizzo, have not spent money. And I think the move to bring in Dansby and Seiya Suzuki a couple years ago, you sign Ian Happ to an extension. You sign Nico Horner to extension, guys that you believe are going to be part of your future. And then you bring in Craig Counsell to say, hey, this is our manager for the next 5 to 7, 8, 9 years. And this is the sign for everybody out there that the Chicago Cubs are back to being that team. Now, you have to show that, but I think the Counsell move was the one to say, hey, we're not playing around with people anymore.
Yeah, and then also within their division, they're like, okay, Milwaukee, you don't want to pay an extra few $1 million for your manager, or didn't want to throw him the bag while you had him for 1 billion years. We like him better than everyone else, and he's available right now. So we're going to, swing around a little bit here and show you how much more money that we have and resources. So that's their choice. And obviously Milwaukee could have matched it or could have obviously beaten the offer. That's what happens. So here's the aftermath for me. Serious question. These guys have kind of been giving me shit for it. Do you have anyone that you can talk to within the Brewers organization about why David Ross wouldn't be a candidate for the job? I'm dead serious here, not just for the spite. These guys have just been shaking their head. I'm serious, troll. Russ. I'm not a troll. I'm not a troll. Russ, can you help me out here? If he did a good job and he knows all the inside secrets about the division rival, and he would have the biggest chip on anyone's shoulder ever, and they've displayed that they can pay some money for the manager position, they think that it's got some value, right? Doesn't everything add up that he should at least be a candidate? Shouldn't he get an interview if he wants to?
Sure, a candidate for sure. You weren't the first person that brought that to me, Scott. Like that day, I had a couple people text me like, "Wouldn't it be crazy?" And I said, "Yes, yes, it would." Just if not for the entertainment value. I understand that, AJ. I understand that.
And David Ross,
why?
David Ross at the end wasn't considered that great of a manager. Ask any Cub fan out there. As much as they love David Ross, they're going to say he at the end, the last year or so,
his bullpen.
They were like, no, we don't want David Ross.
They lost 15 of their last 22, right? If they don't do that and they make the postseason, are we even here? I have a hard time believing that we are if they make it to the postseason. But I think he should at least get why not talk to as many people as possible? Even if you don't hire somebody, does it hurt you to talk to different candidates?
It does. No. Ask Jerry Reinsdorf and the White Sox. They don't talk to anybody.
Well, that's a personal problem, AJ. That's a personal problem.
That's not personal to me. It's not personal to me.
Nah, it's personal.
No.
It's personal.
Yeah, it's truthful.
No, because
it's kind of personal.
You're a homer, so you're
a little personal.
Them, which you're allowed to do.
I'm allowed to be a fan, aren't I?
No, for 100%. Sure. But don't say it's not personal when it is.
It's not personal. It's just
you and my dad. Sad.
They're the only two left. We might be, especially after what happened today, we might be the only two left.
Yo, I was the one that had to break it to him.
To your dad?
Yes, I texted him this morning. As soon as I saw, I said, "Dad, you're not gonna believe it, man." He's like, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna read the text message from my dad, this
Mr.
morning.
Dorsey.
It's great. Dad goes, no, 5 O's, exclamation points. This organization is a flat out disaster. Ricky Dorsey.
You know what else is a disaster?
Yeah.
When AJ tries to talk to you about the Chicago Bears. So let's finish with this. A live
why do you do this
update
to me,
on
man?
the poll. Do you want to hear AJ talk about the Bears on foul territory? Options: yes, no, or it's better than when he talks about Florida. 76% say no. Stop it.
He
You know what?
gone.
And he's gonna
What
do
did,
it
what did Rock
anyway.
say? It doesn't matter what you say. Because I still want to. Can the Bears cover against Carolina tonight on Thursday
Wait,
Night Football?
It's still going up. 78%. It's still going up.
Again, it doesn't matter.
Yes, AJ. Yes, they can. Because the only team that I think is worse than them is the Carolina
But the
Panthers.
question is, do they lose on purpose to get two better? Because if they win,
And we're
could
out of
affect their
time.
draft stock. I mean, there's
And
a lot
we're
of questions
out
here,
of
Russ.
If
And
they
we're out of
win,
time.
it doesn't matter because they have Carolina's pick. Carolina's 1-6. They're going to be terrible anyway. You're going to have the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, hopefully.
Russ, the Durham Bulls are pretty good. You're talking about Carolina? Good to talk to you, dude. We'll grab you next week, my friend.
We'll talk Bulls basketball next
Later.
week, Russ.
Actually, you know what we're going to talk about when we swing back? The White Sox lost their broadcaster. How did that
That's
happen?
what we were just talking about.
Get ready.
Have you ever seen a guy more unceremoniously let go than David Ross? Who now listen, I know they did this with Renteria for Madden. Okay. But David Ross and Rick Renteria, David Ross was like a folk hero for the Cubs, right? He just got let go, and there was like a 2-sentence thing they put out there, like, we've relieved David Ross of his duties. Thank you, David. And that was it. And then they bring in Craig Counsell. Like, have you ever seen anything in your career where it's been this unceremoniously for somebody that the organization allegedly valued so high?
I don't recall ever seeing anything like that. No, AJ. And certainly this was an unusual circumstance. And as I wrote it today, what the Cubs saw was a possibility, an opportunity to get someone that otherwise would not have been available in normal circumstances, that they maybe only could have gotten this one time. And because of that, and because of what Counsell has accomplished, they felt, okay, we like David Ross, but we love Craig Counsell. We think Craig Counsell will be a better manager. Let's do it. They knew full well how it would look. We all cannot look at this and say, hey, this was cool, man. This is great. No, it stinks. It's not cool. And for David Ross, it's humiliating, it's embarrassing, and probably undeserved. Is he as good a manager as Craig Counsell? No, I would not say that he is. But you don't want to see people treated like that. That said, it's baseball, it's business. This is how America works. I guess the rest of the world works like this too. We've all, well, maybe not all of us, but many of us have lost jobs, and it's never pretty. It never is fair. And things go forward from there. For David Ross, as talented as he is in so many ways, I expect he'll be fine. Maybe he'll even come out of this stronger. But obviously right now, I'm sure he's hurting, and rightfully hurting.
And now, back to foul territory.
Gun Stadium, Braun, Pierzynski, and Kratz. It's foul territory. Craig Counsell's not the only one to get the bag. Jason Benetti moves from the White Sox to the Tigers, who I'm sure paid him more, because otherwise, why would you go to the job? And there it is. Jason is one of the best in the biz. He's also one of the nicest in the biz. I don't think anyone's ever come across him and been like, that guy's a douche. He's awesome. He's a great guy. He's really good at his job. And the Tigers got a great one. Tigers significantly improved their broadcast today and got one of the best professionals, and also just a baseball guy too, which I think is important, right? It's not just like a play-by-play guy. I mean, obviously he calls other sports, but he knows baseball, and he's fun, entertaining. So I'm pretty critical of play-by-play people, mostly behind the scenes, because I don't want to call them out like that, because I used to do it and people gave me shit. But anyway, great pickup by the Tigers. I don't know how you let a guy go. But you want to talk about an epidemic, Kratz? I'll tell you an epidemic. Okay? Owners sit around, many of them, and say, why do we pay this much for our broadcaster? Doesn't everyone want to do this job? Every kid that can't make it to the big leagues or do something else in sports wants to be a broadcaster. Why would we pay this guy $1 million when we can pay the next guy $500K? And then it moves on. Why pay $500K when we can pay $300K? Now there's some teams going, why isn't it just like $100K for that job? It's only like the spokesman of our team, right? Basically like a COO or whatever you want to call it of our organization, but everyone wants to do it. And if this person's quality is here and this person's quality is here, it's close enough. It's fine. Who gives a shit? So that's what's going on in the league in a lot of spots. But it's nice to see that at least one spot, the Tigers said, you know what? We want to get one of the best in the biz who apparently is available. Let's sign him up.
Yeah, and apparently some of those teams that pay less, they'll just say, I got drunk last night, so I'm going to suspend this guy too because he said something that wasn't remotely offensive about our organization, but I'm going to suspend him too.
That's spot on. I think they pay the least, is what I've been told.
It's I don't know. This is definitely both your guys' realm. I'm the uneducated in this. My 32 games on radio, I was well compensated for my 32 games, and I respect the absolute crap out of the Phillies for the way that they handle that group of people. So it's not I wouldn't say it's an industry-wide thing. I would say it is a industry-wide with teams that are nickel and diming stuff.
Phillies are awesome. We've talked about that. They take care of people. It's also not hard to do. So I would say it's maybe like half the teams that have this mindset.
Is everybody traveling? Or is there still some teams
Yeah,
that don't travel?
There's still some teams that don't travel.
That's
Radio
pretty.
people, though.
That's pretty much done, though. Yeah, there's a couple
there's a
left. Like
few
I
left.
don't know what the Blue Jays situation is.
Yeah.
That was
There's a
still
lot
the
of teams
thing.
now that
The Angels,
don't travel their producer and stuff. They still produce from home,
right?
And the actual announcers are there.
Correct.
So I don't know about that. That's a cost saving thing. Listen, I mean, as someone obviously that knows Hawk for personally forever, losing him to the White Sox fans was a big blow. But I mean, it was time. He's old. Benetti, this one comes more as a shock. Listen, Benetti and Steve Stone, love them, hate them, whatever they are. But I've worked with Jason a bunch now, and I love Jason. He's one of my favorite guys to work with. The fact that he left to go to a division rival in the middle of a contract. Let's not forget, he wasn't like a free agent. He was in the middle of a contract that he just signed before last year.
And they gave him a ton of shit about it. I remember when it was going down.
I'll just say this, and I don't want to say anything for Jason. We've obviously discussed it. It wasn't the most peaceful negotiations between him and the club because, listen, he just got a great new gig with Fox. He does college basketball. He does football, college football. He's great at all those things, but he loves baseball. He was a White Sox fan. And I know Jerry doesn't renegotiate in the middle of a contract. I get it. But, oh, man, it's frustrating because we just talked about Getz and what Grifol said. And we had Russ Dorsey. You saw what his dad said. His dad was like, no, I can't believe this. What did he say? The organization keeps finding ways to shoot themselves in the foot, right? Like, you go on Twitter, people were like, I can't believe this. They let him. First of all, I guess you have to let him interview for the job with the Tigers.
No.
But they let him, so they obviously weren't that happy with him.
Or the other way around.
They were super happy with him. They're like, hey, he might go to another team.
I think, okay.
It doesn't make any sense.
I have some expertise in this subject. You can go to your employer and say, hey, I'm not happy. And the one thing, if you're not getting paid the way you want, that's one thing. But you are the voice and the spokesman. And if you're not being valued, that's on them. But you have to be the voice and the spokesman. So if you are smart as an organization, if you choose to not compensate or treat someone the way that they should be treated, you also have to understand that they might not be happy when they're doing their job. Do you want the spokesman being unhappy? Does that make sense?
No, not at all.
Really?
You want the spokesman to be happy.
Right. So I'm saying if he went to the team and said, hey, can I explore other options? Because I'm not feeling great. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
If you're a broadcaster, you have a broadcaster, right? Like on our show, if one of our hosts was like, hey, I don't really like this anymore, but they were like in a contract, do they want to be there? I mean, also, if you're just a normal, like legitimate person, you'd be like, okay, go explore something else. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
You don't want someone sitting there doing their job every day, 162 games, like, I hate life. Bye, Kratz.
Oh,
By the way, whoever Northsider Geo is here on the chat, save it, dude. Save it, Northsider Geo. You can save it with your things you're writing on here. Save it, dude. That has nothing to do with anything. If you can ask anybody in the sports broadcast business, Jason Benetti is one of the best guys at his job. I don't care what you say or what you're talking about. There's no other reasons.
Also, I saw it. That's inappropriate and not true. So I'm not even going to repeat what he said.
No, I'm not either. But I'm just saying, save it, bro.
Yeah.
Jason Benetti is one of the best people you'll ever meet in your life. And I don't care what you say about, he left to go to Detroit. He's not going to change my friendship with him. I'm still going to get to do games with him. I'm still going to enjoy the crap out of it because he's really good at his job. And you can have criticism. He talks too much. He's too quirky with Steve Stone, whatever. But that was their
I
shtick,
like that.
right? That was kind of their shtick. And doing a game with Jason Benetti is great. And so I think that people get attached to their play-by-play guy, especially in baseball, because they see him 160, 150 times a year, and they're in their ear, even if it's on just in the background. So now whoever comes in after Hawk, who obviously is Frick in the Hall of Fame, and now Benetti, who one day will probably end up in the Hall of Fame, who's going to be the next guy? That's the question. And can they live up to the past two? Because the past two have been pretty damn good for the White Sox.
That's what I was going to say. Baseball has something that other sports don't, and it is the homegrown, in the case of Hawk, homer announcer. But I feel like baseball, fans get that continuity, the certain, you know what? It's 7:00. We're busy doing stuff around the house, but the game is on, and you hear somebody, you hear Buck Martinez, you hear Tom McCarthy, you hear Jason Benetti. In your town, you hear those people, and it kind of has a familiarity. And when you're switching that out because of something that to me, that's a miss by baseball in each local regional city.
Yep, good call. AJ's not going to be the play-by-play guy. We might do some, watch party action though next year. Just if people would be into that. If you want to hear AJ and maybe me and some other cool White Sox people, Ozzie Guillen, just talking White Sox. Let us know. Too much
research for the play-by-play. You got to know the counts and stuff. Got to actually know the score of the game.
Play-by-play is so overrated.
That's why they get paid less than the analysts. You just said it right there.
I don't care. You're right.
That's awesome. That is well said for a just turned 21-year-old. Good for you. You've definitely grown up if that's the transitions you've made. But now that you've been in pro ball, is there a celebrity? Is there a celebrity that you were like, yeah, wow, I can't believe I met this guy? Or if there's no celebrities, any players? Because I know you're jealous. I showered with Chase Utley, so I'm just saying.
That's funny. No, I'm trying to think. Not too many celebrities that I've met. I do have a funny story. We were the Rockies big league team was playing the Angels big league team in spring training 2 years ago. I think this was my first spring training. So I'm not in big league camp. I'm not in the big league game. I'm just kind of chilling out on the minor league side, walking back to the clubhouses, and I hear two golf carts coming behind me. I don't think anything of it. I'm just walking back into the clubhouse, and I remember there's a guy on a golf cart goes 2 feet to my right, and I just kind of just look over, and Shohei's on the back of the golf cart just looking at me, just kind of gives me a little wave. I had no clue this guy was here. Before I know it, Shohei Ohtani's driving right by me on our minor league side on a golf cart going into the game. I thank God I had sunglasses on, because I kind of did one of those at him, because I wasn't expecting that to happen. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. Anyways, I keep walking. He goes about his thing. I hear another golf cart behind me. I'm not looking. I don't care. Sure, you can probably know who I'm going to tell you. Mike Trout is on the back of the golf cart driving right by me as I keep on walking. He's looking at me too with his headphones in. And I was just just being a newly drafted high school guy, not expecting two of the best players arguably ever to just casually drive by on the back of golf carts. Threw me off a little bit, but it was cool.
And now back to foul territory.
Well, what's up, people? So first off, shout out to this show, always having the support of our friends at BetMGM. So if you want to bet 10, get 200 instantly. If you're new to the party, use the code FOUL200. Place your first BetMGM sportsbook wager through the app of at least $10, and you'll receive $200 instantly in additional winnings. Say it. Regardless of your wager's outcome. Don't hire me for your play-by-play job. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Also, in hour number 2, we have Tanner Bibee of the Cleveland Guardians and Kevin Gausman. And next week, we are going to do at least one show, maybe two, back in Borgata in a different space, Kratz and myself, because right after that, we're going to play in a little poker tournament, and we're going to take over their Twitter account too. And if you want to play alongside us, you can. You can lock up a seat for the little fall mini series over at Borgata in Jersey. Register right now. You got to go to the BetMGM poker app and be in one of those states where you can get it done. Oh, Kratz, you don't even have to say anything. Just let that ride for another 30 seconds or so.
Is that like 72nd place trophy?
No, that's a beautiful one spot right there. First place online poker champ.
First out of 2.
No.
Him and Scott had their own tournament.
I didn't win.
I would
Exactly.
definitely beat
He
Scott.
finished first, you finished second.
Ain't first or last. Tell him, Kratz.
Second place is the first to lose.
All right, we'll be right back. First off with Mike DiGiovanna on the Ron Washington hire for the Angels.
Gotta let go so I can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. As I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Second hour of FT Live, and we'll have Kevin Gausman and Tanner Bibee joining us in a little bit, but let's start strong with Mike DiGiovanna making his FT debut. Writes for the LA Times. You can follow him at his name, Mike DiGiovanna. Mike, great to talk to you. Let's get right into the Angels. They bring on Ron Washington, and your thoughts on the addition. I think it's been pretty consensus. Most people, pick at anything these days, but I haven't seen much negativity on this front. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, Ron's a hard guy to not like in this game. His reputation is pretty impeccable, especially when you talk to some of the infielders, especially that he's worked with over the years. I talked to Freddie Freeman a lot over this past year with the Dodgers. He swears by him. You look at all the work he's done with those Braves infielders. I just think he's a really well-liked guy, and pretty obvious, I think, with at least what appear to be the 2 finalists for that job in Buck Showalter and Ron Washington, that they did want an experienced guy, somebody who had managed the big league level to handle this team, which, moving forward is going to be a pretty difficult team to try to turn around.
Is this a place filler or is this a needle shifter? Be honest, both the 2 people that they were looking to get in Showalter and Ron Washington, they're experienced, but they're experienced in winning. Are the Angels really looking at winning, or are they like, I hope we win?
That's a good question. I hadn't really thought of it along those terms, although I did think of it when I looked at some of these names who were reported reportedly going to be in his coaching staff. The one that jumps out at me is Torrey Hunter. I was trying to reach Torrey this morning, haven't had any luck, but if he indeed is, if you know Torrey, he's the CEO of his own conglomerate right now. He's got a lot going on with restaurants and business ventures in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. For him to give that up right now to move to Anaheim, back to Anaheim to be a first base coach, to me that tells me maybe he's been told he might be a successor to Ron Washington when Ron decides to retire. I can't imagine many other scenarios where he'd want to take that job unless that was on the table. So, yeah, this team is, you're looking at Ohtani probably leaving. You're looking at a pretty big rebuilding effort. You're looking at an organization that traded away 2 of its 3 top prospects from a farm system that wasn't very good to begin with. The cupboard won't be bare, but there's, it's going to be a major job. It's going to take more than a few years and more than a few healthy seasons for Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon to turn things around here. So, placeholder, I don't know. Ron's 71 years old. I don't see him doing this for too much longer. But certainly, like I said, the people on that coaching staff that you see supposedly, reportedly coming in makes it pretty interesting.
Yeah. So, you even tweeted it's a 2-year deal. So you just said yourself, it's going to be more than it's a 2-year contract for new Angels manager, Ron Washington. The team just announced. And it's like, so to me, like, if it's a 2-year deal, my thing is like, what's the point? Not saying he's not good, but what is the future view or future idea for the Angels?
Well, this whole organization everything seems temporary right now, right? The owner last year announced he's going to sell the team. Then in January, he pulls the team off the market. The general manager only has 1 year left on his contract. A 2-year contract for the manager. I can't even think of many first-year managers who have gotten less than a 3-year deal. So yeah, there's just a sense of a temporary feeling about this whole organization right now. To me, a lot of it will depend on what the owner decides. Artie Moreno calls most of the big shots with the Angels right now. How much longer is he going to own the team? To me, personally, I think if he decides to sell over the next year or two, I think that to me is an encouraging sign that maybe a new owner can come in and really, get the kind of front office in place that's going to turn this thing around. But yeah, everything just seems very temporary with the Angels right now. And if Ohtani leaves, that's just going to make things even worse.
I'm going to have an Ohtani question after this one. But so is the team more valuable to someone else that's going to buy them with Mike Trout or with the prospects that Mike Trout could possibly bring?
Yeah, the Mike Trout question is going to be interesting. He's a extremely loyal guy. He's claimed, at least publicly, that he doesn't want to be traded. But you're looking at 8 straight losing seasons. I think he's 32 now. Hasn't had a healthy season in a couple of years, 4 or 5 years, really, if you don't count the pandemic year. Is he going to want to stick around, at age 35 for another massive rebuilding effort? And from the Angels' perspective, do you want a $38 million player at age 35 for another 4 or 5 years, sort of putting a drag on that payroll? So I can certainly see a situation over the next few years where he asks to be traded. And frankly, I wouldn't blame him for that. He's given everything he can, the last 12 years for this organization. If it's not going to happen here, I think it's the Angels' responsibility to at least get him to a place where he might be able to win a World Series.
All right. So if I give you odds, you get the state of California or you get all 49 other states, does Shohei Ohtani sign in California or any of the 49 other states? And it can be Hawaii. I don't think he's signing with I think it's the Hawaii Rainbows. But I need you to make the case, if you want to be specific which team, but the case for the state of California to sign Shohei Ohtani. That was a tough question.
There is out there in the
Rose?
game. You there?
You back?
Sorry.
No.
You there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm having some internet trouble, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, Ohtani is one of the smarter guys I've ever seen, and you can be sure that he's not only looking at the teams that he might sign with, he's looking at the farm systems, the organizations, the talent these teams have on the cusp of the big leagues. And I think, he's clearly stated he wants to win. The Dodgers have made the postseason 11 straight years. Yeah, they've struggled in the last 2. But they have a really good stable of young pitching. Bobby Miller coming up, the Emmett Sheehan's, the Ryan Pepios, the Gavin Stones, the Michael Groves, and you have Walker Buehler coming back. They had the best bullpen in baseball for the last 4 months last season. You have Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman at the top of that lineup in their prime for several more years. You have a pretty good nucleus of young players. He's looking at things like that, and as much money as the New York Mets and even the San Francisco Giants are going to throw at him. I honestly don't think the Dodgers have to make the best financial offer to get this guy. If winning is going to be a priority for Shohei, he's used to playing in California. The Dodgers can offer everything that I think he wants. So I think the chances of the Dodgers getting him, and yeah, is there a selfish reason for me to want him to stay here? Sure, he's a great story. It's amazing watching this guy and writing about him all the time. But I do think the Dodgers are in a great position right now to land him.
What do you think could be a reason why it doesn't happen for the Dodgers? And then we'll get to the Angels.
That's a tough one. I can't see any just things that's jumping out at me as that would eliminate the Dodgers. The only, how it is with the players. There's certainly a pressure on guys like Ohtani to set the market, so to speak, when it comes to the financial part of a deal. I do think other teams are going to offer him more money. I mean, if Steve Cohen wants this guy, the Mets are going to throw the bank at him. And the Giants have had, they've tried to get Aaron Judge, Carlos Correa these last few years. I think they're sitting on a pile of cash as well. And the only one little wild card team, and I've started to hear rumblings about this, is a team like the Texas Rangers. Look at what they did last year, and you look at the talent they have on that team, and that's returning to that team. I don't know if they can afford another contract like Ohtani's with all the big money guys they have there, but you could make an argument that if you want to win, the Rangers are a pretty good team to go to right now.
Okay, so let's flip it, because we're doing cases for basically half the league, because we can rule out about half the league. But the other half we are running through over the next couple weeks. The case for Shohei Ohtani returning to the Angels. Give us a percentage chance. Give us any insight and reasoning for why, I guess aside from comfort and knowing what you're working with, he would return to the same ball club.
I don't want to say a 0% chance, but I don't think it's going to be much higher than 5, maybe 10% at the most. Listen, he's been here 6 years. He's seen the turmoil this team has been dealing with over the last few years. I think he's played for 4 different managers. He's on a second general manager. Even though I think if Artie Moreno sells a team, I look at that as a net positive. He doesn't know who's going to own the team moving forward. The farm system, they have a couple of nice-looking young position players in the shortstop, Zach Neto, this first baseman, Nolan Shanuel. Beyond that, Trout and Rendon haven't had healthy seasons for 3 straight years. I mean, what is the lure for Ohtani to come to Anaheim? I mean, if it's a matter of playing in the great Southern California climate, he can do that in Los Angeles and play in front of 45, 50,000 fans a night. I just think he's seen what has happened with Mike Trout. I think he doesn't want to make the same mistake Mike Trout made in tying himself to this franchise for 12 years. I'm not rooting against it, but I just can't see it happening.
Hey, Mike, how badly do you think the league, which is a business, wants to see Shohei not go back to the Angels based on the team not making the postseason for a decade and that being just bad business for the sport. I bring this up all the time, but I mean, LeBron not in the playoffs for a decade. How would that do for the NBA? One of the best players ever, you know?
Yeah,
That's what we're
obviously
going through right now.
Yeah, the league wouldn't come out and publicly say that, but sure,
Sure.
I think that's a factor. Look at the ratings for the WBC last March. I mean, they were off the charts, better than they've ever been. Why? Because of Otani and Rosaki and that great team from Japan, you know, going against the U.S. in the finals. I think we got a taste of what Otani might be like in the postseason. Look, I mean, yeah, the strikeout of Mike Trout to end the thing was great, and it's going to get talked about for years. But he led off that game-winning rally with a double to the gap on a pitch that was probably ankle high and outside. I mean, because he was determined to get a hit. So I think baseball needs Otani to get to the postseason, just like they've needed Mike Trout to get there over these last few years. And I think it'd be a shame to not see Otani in an October setting.
What's the pulse of Angels fans right now? Because we've certainly experienced at least some of them on social media who I think kind of mischaracterize, at least me, when I, for years now, will bitch about how the team is run. And I'm not the only one. I'm getting everything that I talk about straight from people super, super directly involved and usually in high positions with the ball club complaining to me about Artie Moreno. And then I'll get some of what I call like Artie's Army. I mean, it could be one of his friends that comes after me on social media. So my thing is, I want them to win. I want them to be successful. I've been there many times. Mark Gubas is one of the nicest dudes in the game. The fans deserve it. They always have to be kind of the ugly stepchild right now to the Dodgers in the way that they're running their operation. We had Joe Madden on the other day, and he was like, my advice to the manager is you have to get some things fixed, including the facilities, which some of them are the worst in baseball, which is insane to me. So how do you think the pulse of the fan base is? And I'm wondering why they can't do a reverse protest or something like that, or maybe just a protest over at the stadium, because their owner has teased them and said, I'm going to sell. And like you mentioned earlier, he took it back. He took the keys back.
Yeah, it's the dynamic there was interesting last year because there were a lot of people just cheering when he finally came out. Well, when he came out and said he's going to sell the team, and then just conversely groaning when he pulled the team off the market. There was some pretty good indications that the owner of the Golden State Warriors was interested in buying the team, and I think a guy like that would be really good. I think the pulse of the Angels fans right now is one of high frustration, impatience, tired of the losing, tired of, you talk to former players, the guys Artie has signed and retained, and played for him over the years and given a lot of money to. They love the guy. Well, yeah, Torrey Hunter, Tim Salmon, Albert Pujols. These guys aren't going to say anything bad about the owner because he's thrown millions of dollars at these guys. But Artie is also, highly responsible, if not primarily responsible, for the signing of Pujols, the signing of Josh Hamilton, the signing of C.J. Wilson. Some of these contracts have hamstrung the organization for years financially. And it just seemed like anytime he gets, call it meddling, call it getting involved, he's the owner, he has that right. But it does seem like many of the times he's really injected himself into these types of personnel decisions. They have backfired. And it's just been, we're on 8 straight losing seasons with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. And it's almost become a cliche. It's a bad joke now around baseball that how can you not even have a winning season with 2 of the best players in baseball? So they're frustrated. They'd like to see some change. Is Ron Washington the answer? There's no reason he shouldn't help, but it's going to take so much more, I think, than a really good manager to turn this franchise around.
Mike, sorry I missed some of your answers. Ironically, Torrey Hunter called me right when you were talking, so I just skip out to answer the phone. He literally said to me, "Are you on the air?" And I said, "Yeah, we were just talking about you." He said, "About what?" I said, "Well, you're going to be the first base coach in Anaheim." And he just started laughing. He goes, "I ain't going to be the first base coach." He did interview, though, for the manager's job. He did tell me that, okay, which is great because I love Torrey. Torrey and I came up through the system together. He's an awesome guy. And he said, I want to be the manager because I can mentor the people better as a first base coach. And I said, well, Wash only signed a 2-year deal. He goes, man, you ain't never heard of a first base coach going right to manager. And I was like, well, you could be the first.
Torrey's different.
That's what I said. I go, you're different though.
But
he said, he goes, listen, I have a lot going on. He has barbecues, he has kids, he has a wife. There's a bunch of things going on in Dallas, like Mike said. But he also said, he's like, yes, I'd love to be, which he is. He's like a special assistant because what he likes is to be able to talk to kids, younger kids, and help them grow, not only in baseball, but in their life. And he's like, right now, I have enough time because he's like, time is money for me. I have enough time in the Dallas area where I can still talk to kids, not just about baseball, but about life. Because if you know anything about Torrey Hunter was in a gang growing up and all this, and he got out, right? And now he's, one of the best dudes in the world. So I agree with what Torrey said, but Mike, there's your answer about him being the first base coach. He just laughed and said, I'll be the manager because I can help more people out being the manager, and he'd love to do it one day, but he's not going to be the first base coach of the Angels.
Yeah, Torrey is also a grandfather of 5 now, too. So he's got that going on. And having become a grandpa recently, I know how that goes. And, I don't think any of those reports were confirmed, and that's why I was obviously trying to reach out to him. But Torrey is probably the one guy, maybe personality-wise. You talk about a guy commanding a presence. My goodness, Torrey Hunter will get your attention. And, a guy like him, that's why I thought a guy like Darren Erstad even might have been really good with the Angels right now. But, yeah, I think if there's a profile or a type of guy who could go from, having played a couple years ago, never managed at any level, and could probably do it, I would think Torrey Hunter would be the guy. And sort of along those lines that you're talking about with Torrey, I think there will be and has been a little more of an effort with the Angels to bring in some of their more prominent players from the past. We saw Tim Salmon and Chuck Finley on the field in uniform as guest coaches the last month of the season. They need to bring in some more of these guys that were here, that were winning, all those divisions they won from 2002 to 2009, the pennants they won, the World Series they won. They need to bring back some of that mentality, some of that presence, some of that fire, the David Ecksteins, the Troy Glosses, the Darren Erstads, the Salmons, the Garrett Andersons. All those guys are part of something really big here for a long time. And they've just gotten so far away from that right now that there are a lot of kids who haven't really experienced that in Orange County, and that's a shame.
Mike, great to talk to you. This was all really good stuff. Obviously, it's trying times for Angels fans. We'll see if it gets a little bit better. Enjoy your off season.
All right. Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. Mike DiGiovanna. You can follow him, his exact name, on Twitter with the handle. We'll post some of the conversation.
By the way, one of the things you were just talking about, Darren Erstad, who's one of my favorite guys of all time. So played against him for years with the Angels, and then he signs with the White Sox. And we go back to Anaheim. We're like, oh, video montage, big welcome back. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be awesome. And I said, what happens if the first fly ball hits you and you miss it? And Ersty goes, dude, that doesn't happen, bro. He's like, I've never lost one in the lights, never lost one in the twilight. First fly ball. Boop. Lost it. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I mean,
you said that to him before?
Yeah, we're like, dude, what happens if you miss the fly ball? Are they going to boo you or cheer you? And he's like, never missed one, never lost one in the twilight. I promise, first ball. He's literally standing there like this, and he comes in. He's like, you son of a bitch.
I mean, that's like a real jinx. You got in his head and you psyched him out.
Dude, it was one of the, we were awful. It was 2007. We were awful. But it was one of the he had to tie his shoes 50 times. He was like,
oh, superstitious.
Oh man, I love Darren Erstad. He's one of the best, man. One of the most intense dudes you will ever meet. And yeah, if they want intensity, bring Darren Erstad in. He'll bring some intensity for sure.
I don't know how I feel. I didn't get enough insight on the dudes coming into your dugout, invading your dugout a few weeks ago in the season.
We talked about that when they announced that on the
show. That didn't rub me the right way. What, Kratz?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Seriously? Oh, when towards the end of the season, the Angels sent a couple
Finley and Salmon into the dugout to hang
out
with Phil Nevin. We talked about it at the time. We're like, yeah, this is them saying bye to Phil Nevin.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I feel like that's kind of disrespectful. I know it was kind of publicly oh, it's cool, it's going to be helpful, but the team was out of it. I don't know. That was weird to me. I don't. Do you see that happen? in other situations. Like, hey, we're just going to add a couple coaches here with 3 weeks to go. And obviously, it has nothing to do with them or their character. I just that's not cool. I didn't like that,
especially at the end of the season. Like, what are we? Anyway, little back channel workings.
Correct. It's just not the right way to do something. Yeah, it's not right.
Not the way you're supposed to do things.
No, it's not. We have our guest coming up in a sec, Tanner Bibee, who's a finalist for AL Rookie of the Year. I'm going to try to sneak this in because I don't think we're going to have time for it anywhere else. And I don't think it requires a ton because it's not surprising. But Bryce Harper is going to be the new full-time first baseman for the Philadelphia Phillies. Yes, Rhys Hoskins is not going to come back. There you go. Dombrowski on Harper. We decided we're going to play him at first. He's happy to do whatever we wanted him to do. He said he'd play first or outfield. He feels great. But the more we talked about it internally, we like the idea of playing him at first. And he later did say he thinks he can become a Gold Glove caliber first baseman. I agree. Good move. Probably better for body preservation, being that he has 8,000 years left on his contract. Kratz?
Is this what's best for the team or what's best for the longevity of Harper's contract?
Isn't that the same thing?
Which could be the same thing, but now all of a sudden you're still not as athletic in right field. Wouldn't you much rather have Castellanos in left field, Harper in right, and fill in with, to me, Harper's value is lower as a first baseman based on what he's bringing. I think you can find first basemen that can play first base. Finding a right fielder that can also rake like Harper does, I don't know. Maybe I'm splitting hairs, but and I'm not saying Harper's like a great right fielder, but he has more range than Castellanos, and he has way more range than Schwarber if you're looking to put Schwarber back out and left.
They're not. He's going to DH.
Marsh, you got Marsh. Yeah, Schwarber's basically their DH.
Yeah.
Whoever's in center. I mean, whoever it is, they figure out in center.
Yeah, but if they're not re-signing Rhys, and now Bryce is the perfect fill-in there.
So that would be my question.
Search the market. To let them spend on pitching.
Did Bryce text or call Hoskins and say, hey, bro, I'm going to play first base? This means they're not going to re-sign you? Because if he plays right field, now you bring Hoskins back. You could trade Nick Castellanos coming off an all-star year.
They weren't bringing back Hoskins. They weren't. As soon as he hurt his knee, sadly, he was kind of.
But for a one-year deal, if you could get him on a one-year deal.
The writing was on the wall with Rhys. I'm sorry. Rhys is a great guy.
And he's going to do fine. There's plenty of teams that need a first baseman. But you know what I'm saying?
Like, the writing was on the wall for Rhys.
Yeah.
Especially once Bryce went to first base. Like, that's not Bryce's place to be like, hey, dude, they're telling me to first. Sorry, you're out. Like, no, that's not Bryce's job to do that. Bryce does what he is told by the organization or has to do by the organization. So I don't think Bryce has to say anything to Rhys Hoskins other than, hey, man, I'm sorry. We're going to miss you. We wish you were a part of the team. Right? Like, Castellanos is going to play right. Schwarber's going to DH. Marsh is going to be in left. And they'll figure out center field, like kind of like they did at the end of the year this year.
And Rojas was pretty damn good out there.
Yeah, but Rojas didn't hit, though.
I know.
During the regular season, he did.
Yeah. So, and he's young. We'll see.
But, I mean, every other position for them is pretty much locked up.
Yeah.
Bohm, Turner.
They're going to work on
Stott,
Riamoto.
Last thing, real quick. Wouldn't you put if you could have Harper in right field? And I'm not saying he can't be a right fielder. He can still play right field. Like, just because they say, he's playing first, you can make that move. Likely they won't. But wouldn't it be, if you could trade Nick Castellanos straight up for a number 3 starter, would you do it?
No, they're not going to.
No, they're not going to. I think it makes sense. They've
already said they're going to slug their way to the World Series.
My priority is
they've done it almost for 2 years.
But they have to
preservation.
They have
best
to
way to keep him on the field.
They have to figure out how to get Nola's spot without being, another $25 million pitcher.
Best way to keep him on the field, in my mind, is first.
I agree.
So he's been through it, but we can talk more about it. But for now, let's bring in our next guest. Tanner Bibee joins us right now from the Cleveland Guardians. Had a sensational rookie season. He is a finalist for AL Rookie of the Year. Tanner, great to have you on, man. And now that you've had a few weeks to actually let it settle all in, you can talk about yourself. Like, when you reflect on this past season, did it go as planned?
I mean, not really, because I think during spring training, they told me I was going to start in Akron, which is AA. And the only reason I went up to AAA was because Tristan got hurt. And then 3 weeks later, Civ got hurt. So then I got called up after 3 weeks in AAA. So just the first month of the season did not go as planned, really.
So it went better, though, right? I mean, at least for you, obviously you don't want your teammates getting hurt, but like you you jump up to the bigs, and then you're like, oh, cool, I belong here. We had a couple people in our chat when they heard that you were coming on. They go, I didn't know much about him when he came up because some of these people are just fans of baseball or other teams. They were like, but when I saw his first start or his second start, whatever it was, one of his first 2 starts, they were like, oh, he's good. He's going to make it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point it was just kind of not like a fight or flight thing, but it was just like, this is super exciting. I mean, going from debut, the debut always going to be crazy. It's always going to be nerve wracking. And then going from that to Yankee Stadium, my second start was definitely like oh my gosh, I really made it. But I think after like a couple starts here and there, I think I definitely kind of settled in.
Well, Tanner, I think I broadcast about 5 year starts on Fox. Every time I did a Guardians game, who's pitching? Tanner Bibee. I'm like, sweet, he's going to throw that high fastball, little changeup, little back foot curveball. I don't recognize you without your glasses on. So can you go put those on so when I talk to you, you look more normal to what I used to see? But, I mean, man, you had that high fastball combo going. And every time we talked to Terry Francona about you, he raved about your makeup. He raved about your stuff. So congratulations. I know Terry's gone now, but, man, I got to see a lot of your starts. And let me say, I was very impressed with the way you handled yourself.
Thank you. It's definitely, I mean, Tito's the absolute man. I think if I had to pick any manager to ever like help me into like my rookie year, I think he had to be definitely one of the best ones, like ever, to do that.
And we'll get to that. And obviously you have a new guy, and these guys can give you some tips, especially Kratz knows Stephen Vogt pretty well. So we'll have some fun with that. But first off, you probably, I hope, know this better than I do. Correct me if I'm wrong, because this changed recently. The top 2 finishers for AL Rookie of the Year can get full service time. Do you know what I'm talking about with how that works?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the player, and these guys know it a little bit too.
Yeah, so I think it's first and second get a full year of service time. I think it's relatively new because the new CBA.
Yeah. So are you rooting for at least, I mean, hey, Gunnar Henderson has a pretty good chance of winning this thing, right? Position player, played all year, the whole deal. Are you like, hey, if I get second place, I get a full year instead of what you're at right now? I mean, that's real, though. That matters for the individual.
100% it matters for him.
You should want
that.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, the full year of service time, I think, is ginormous for me, and just like longevity of career and anything, and just like making money. But then again, like you always want to win. Like you don't want to be like, oh, hell yeah, second place. But I mean, it's just cool kind of being nominated. It's cool being up there. I mean, Gunnar had a great season, so did Tristan. So
what isn't there a prize pool too? Isn't there a money pool? Don't you get for being
for
top,
rookie of the
for
year?
being top 5? Yeah.
I think first and second, and then there's the pre-arbitration pool too.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that's not anything with the rookie of the year voting. That's the money. The money isn't.
I don't think so. No.
Okay. No. Yeah, I think those are separate, but service time is cool.
All right, dude, are you kidding? I mean, you almost got a full year anyway. So
yeah,
I mean,
he was close.
You know, what'd be really cool though is if they gave you an extra year of service time. So like instead of him being like, I got 130 days, you now have 1 year and 130 days.
Yeah.
Get to arbitration faster. No, we need to talk to Tony Clark about that.
There's no way the other side would accept that.
Yeah. No.
Not a chance. Not a chance. Hey, before we get to one of my favorite people in the world and your new manager, your last outing, do you know who this is a dumb question, but you know who you pitched against for your last outing of the year, right?
It was the Rangers. Who did I throw against?
And how did you do?
It was like 5 1/3, 1 run because Marcus Semien loves to hit off me.
Hey, you got him out. You got him out on the first pitch curveball to start the game.
Yeah.
But did you see them win the World Series after you faced them on, I think it was September 16th?
Yeah, it was. I was actually really rooting for them and the Phillies to go against each other because I threw pretty well against the Phillies too.
So did you see them? Did you see them doing what they did? I mean, you actually threw way better against the Phillies than you did against. That was 7 innings.
Yeah, they absolutely turned it on. I mean, we played them right out of the All-Star break, and I remember looking up at the scoreboard in Arlington and seeing all their stats. I mean, you had like Ezekiel Duran and Jankowski and Leody Taveras hitting like 789, and they're all hitting like 310, and I'm like, what? these guys are their 7, 8, 9 hitters hitting 310, and they kind of like got into that little lull where they kind of struggled. And then once it hit October, I mean, they just absolutely turned it back on to what they were.
All right, so now Kratz, go ahead. Leads you right into your recommendation here. Go ahead, give him the scouting report on that handsome man who's smiling, taking over the spot of a legend.
Yeah. First of all, he's going to love your shirt because it's not Nike. It's Nike. Okay. So it's Hike Nike. It's not Hike Nike. But he is easily going to be the ugliest manager you've ever had, even though you've only had one in the big leagues. And as much as you loved Tito, I think you will love Stephen Vogt just the same, but in more of like a favorite uncle instead of like your favorite grandpa.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on.
But how are you going? What would you tell Voter about yourself before you ever even set foot on the mound? Because he's going to know what you throw. He knows exactly. He's got all that baseball stuff. What would you tell him about yourself to make him get to know you better, but also just to make the team better?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way I could describe myself, I feel like I'm a really hard worker. I feel like I'm super competitive on and off the field. And I think I just kind of want to win, really. Like last year, towards the end, I mean, playing meaningless baseball, I mean, it's only my first time, but playing meaningless baseball is definitely not as fun as trying to go for the playoffs. So that's what I would say. That's how I would describe to him.
Have you talked to him yet?
No, I haven't. I mean, I think he's been, I mean, I cannot imagine all the stuff he's going through right now, talking with everyone.
Kratz, when he does call Tanner, what should Tanner say to him?
That's a good question.
Any inside joke or something good on Voter?
Come back to me on that one. I'm trying to come up with some dirt, but hey, is it going to be tough to respect a guy that you could have faced had you made up to the big leagues a year before compared to the manager who you almost have to help down the steps in Tito Francona?
That's honestly super crazy. I think he would have been last year he would have been 7 years older than our oldest guy, which is nuts.
Compared to Tito.
Who's
70 years older.
Who's coached longer than I've been alive.
Correct. Big difference. Yeah. All right. So on the
hold on. Wait, before.
Yes.
Is Carl Willis staying? Did they announce whether Carl Willis is staying or not?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay. I know. I didn't know. I haven't seen anything on that. Are they keeping the rest of the coach? I just don't know.
Sarball's gone.
Yeah. Well, Sarball is Tito's guy for sure.
Yeah.
And I thought someone else.
Sarball, Rigo Beltran, and there was one more that I can't remember.
Is Ricky still in the bullpen? Is he still your bullpen coach?
Yeah. Ricky's
now,
still there.
If you want to know what Voter's going to be like, just think a mature Ricky.
Ricky who? What's the last name?
Ricky Paccioni.
No, you can't say that name. You're now on a hit list.
What?
You're now on a Jersey hit list. You can't be putting his name out there. He's undercover mafia.
It's on MLB.com.
No.
Is it not? Is he a secret bullpen coach?
He's no. He's the
bullpen
catcher.
Oh, bullpen catcher
for millennial. He's been there forever. He doesn't age.
Yeah, you would think he's in his mid-20s and he's got a full-on kid.
Yep. He's got an adult child.
Full-on kid.
I love that how Tanner just says you're an adult, you have a kid.
A full-on kid, though. Not like a 2-year-old.
Not like half a kid, like a full kid.
This kid, eats real meals and stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Tanner, I got a question for you. I want to try and, see if I can, ask it in a different way because you've probably gotten it a million times already. But we have fun here. But I also think on the baseball side, I like to point out that Cleveland, for example, is a pitching machine, pitching factory, right? The Rays get, I think, the most attention in the league. It's you go to the Rays and you turn into gold. I actually think Cleveland's probably leading the pack in that department right now. I know you don't have another place to – what's up, Kratz? Oh, for starting. No. For Cleveland?
They do not produce relief pitchers. I've seen their algorithm. They do not produce relief pitchers.
Disagree.
They trade for them.
Okay, but then they bring them over and the Rays trade for everyone. I'm just saying, at the big league level, the development of pitchers to be successful at the big league level. What have you seen? What have anyone that's come from another organization said to you that stands out about what you've experienced so far that's enabled guys to not just make it through the system, but pretty quickly have success in the big leagues?
I mean, Cleveland's super unique in that way. I think there's like only a couple other teams that can really say that they're good at developing. I think you said the Rays are one of them. I think the Dodgers are up there. And I think what Cleveland did when I first got drafted, they were like, what kind of pitcher do you want to be? And they asked me first before kind of like giving their opinion. And I've always kind of wanted to be that like the overpowering fastball guy, but be able to throw all the pitches for strikes. And they were like, okay, like we agree. Like let's throw a riding fastball. Let's throw a slider that looks like a fastball. Let's throw a changeup that looks like a fastball. Like I think at that point they want to find out what you're best at and what you're able to do before you can absolutely like lock down what you can do in the future. Just because there's so many things, like you're never going to be a finished product ever. That's their kind of philosophy for it. And every day you need to keep refining stuff, keep getting better, stuff like that.
Tanner, speaking of getting better, is your hip better? Because they put you on the 60-day IL at the end of the year with a hip. Is your hip messed up, or was that just a procedural move where you had a little bit of tightness and they're like, it's the end of the season anyways, we need a roster spot?
Yeah, I think it was more procedural. I think it was all already precautionary. I mean, we weren't really playing for anything at that point. We were kind of almost mathematically eliminated, and it kind of just tweaked it. And at that point of the season, it was just like, okay, let's just not push this.
That's fair.
That's fair. Yeah, totally.
Question for you. We were debating this earlier, and you were a 5th round pick from Cal State Fullerton. Do you think that the draft should be where it's at right now? We were, the topic came up again in the last 24 hours. I've been very involved in the draft, so it's one of the few topics on this show that I can actually have a little bit of say in. And I was like, day after Omaha ends, have it in Omaha. Keep the party going, right? I feel like that's a much better spot. I feel like it gets completely hidden under all of the other all-star festivities, and I don't like the timing. Now that you're, years removed from that, what do you think?
I feel like it should be like this like glorified thing. I mean, the NFL draft is in Vegas. The NBA draft has this whole thing. I mean, like, there's more rounds in the MLB draft, and you're not going to see them in the bigs like right away, even though, I mean, the past like 2 years, I feel like we kind of are sometimes, especially with like the Angels. But I think it needs to be like the whole production. I mean, I feel like this is a once in a lifetime thing for a lot of these people and a lot of these like players. So I feel like why not? Like, let's make it like this grand thing.
So what would be your grand thing? How would you want to make it a bigger thing? Because I love the idea about it being after Omaha. It's like the only like buildup that we have from, the amateurs coming in, and then it's like, oh yeah, have it right there. And some of the guys are still around.
I mean, I kind of like it. I mean, that's kind of where every college baseball player is trying to get to at the end of the day. And like, the high schoolers don't really know much about Omaha, but I think at the same time, like, it's kind of like the mecca of like the next level almost. And I feel like there's going to be a ton of draft guys there. I think Omaha is a great place for it.
Yeah, me too. So, all right, talking about fighting to get drafted. Let's talk about where you were when Hosey landed the knockout blow on TA. We're showing it here.
This is some of the most adrenaline I've had on a baseball field ever.
Where are you? Is he on here?
I'm on the railing. You really can't ever see me in these videos, I don't think. But I'm on the railing. I think I'm the guy with the hood on, I want to say, when it runs in right here. Yeah, you barely saw me. But
you weren't there.
I was on the railing, and I remember seeing like through all the crowd of people, I see them both go like this, and I'm like, oh my god, like they're about to straight up fight. And then I'm running out there, and all I see is them start swinging, and I just see TA just like crumble to the ground, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's on. Like Hosey just knocked him out, and then like you had Kopech and Clase go like yelling at each other, and like Gabriel Arias is yelling, and then Sarby and Griffall start yelling at that whole thing was like the longest, like prolonged thing ever. And there's just so much adrenaline involved. It was amazing.
And you did nothing. You didn't even show up.
I was holding some people back. It's about all I did.
Were you holding your own teammates back, or were you holding the other teammates back? Because you got to either be in the fight or hold someone else from the other team back.
The other team?
Yeah, you got to hold someone else back. There's plenty of
Kratz,
guys.
he's
that aren't
not
fighting.
you. Okay, Tanner, I'm going to give you a little context here. Kratz has gotten in a few of these, and he is like the Michelin man, and he just will like pick up multiple bodies and just be like, he's superhuman strength. So, I mean, I'm sure you're strong, but Kratz is a beast.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I'm definitely not as big as you, Kratz. You're a catcher. Those guys are usually fucking huge.
Tell him, Kratz. Go ahead.
Whatever. I need my pitchers. I need my pitchers to come out there. I mean, if you got the hood on, you're coming out like Sergio Romo came out, like kind of gangster, like what's up now? What's up now? Like they don't know about you. You don't have to actually throw a fight, but they're like, dang, that Tanner Bibee guy, he's kind of scary. Like he had the hood up the whole fight.
Yeah, dude, that's a bad look though as a rookie trying to get in a fight though.
No, not trying to get in a fight, but just like standing up for your boys. Like, yo, I got you. And then when like somebody big like Kopech, if he got in your face, then you'd be like, no, I'm good. Like I'm just trying to chill. I'm just trying to chill.
Oh, hey, dude, hey, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Tanner, listen, here's the thing. When you go out there, especially as a pitcher, you just grab somebody, okay, on the other team, and you find someone either that you like or you don't like, or even somebody you don't know, you just grab them by the shirt, and you just say, okay, we're going to walk over here, and we're just going to hold on to each other, and we're going to peek over our shoulder what's happening, right? So we're going to look like we're holding each other back, but we're really just witnessing and watching like this. We're like, oh, look, oh my gosh, he just got knocked. Oh my God, now Kopech and Kratz, right? That way everyone thinks you're involved. You can't just be standing there and looking around like, oh, wait, nothing's happening. You got to just grab somebody and hold them, and then it'd be like, grab me back. Yeah, we're fighting. And then no one will second guess you.
I'm trying to think of who I would have grabbed on the White Sox. It's like kind of my size. I mean, I'm not grabbing Andrew Vaughn. I'm not grabbing Yasmani.
Dylan Cease.
You grab another pit. Yeah, you grab Dylan Cease.
And
you talk about like, hey, Dylan, can you teach me how to throw your slider while we're sitting here?
Yeah. You like learn things.
Yeah.
Also, Tanner, you're not small. You're 6'2", 2 something. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're okay, dude. Yeah, you're not undersized. All right, last one, and we'll let you jump. And we got another award finalist waiting to say what's up in Kevin Gausman. So Andres Jimenez comes on the show pretty frequently, usually like pretty mild mannered, and we were like, double play partner with Tim Anderson, and he goes, no. Got anything for us on Andres? Because he comes on pretty frequently, and he was pretty laid back and chill. But we figured out a few ways to kind of press his buttons.
Yeah, he's a super quiet dude. Like he like I feel like I'm kind of a quiet dude too, but he I mean he just kind of goes about his business. I mean he's all-star, absolute best second baseman I've ever seen, but he's a great dude. I mean, I think you can definitely press his buttons in some ways. I think I didn't really get to that point because it was my first year, but I think he's an amazing dude.
Tanner, speaking of all-stars and guys that have small awards on your team, there's a Cy Young Award winner on your team that we've also had on. Has Mr. Shane Bieber, has he taught you anything? He hasn't taught you how to grow the perfect beard yet? Has he talked to you about soccer? I mean, what are your conversations like with Shane?
I mean, I think me, him, and Cal talked about when it started getting closer to football season. Every day we just talked about fantasy football and what we liked. I mean, me and Shane are from the same hometown, so that was like one of the first things after my debut. I like sat on the bench. He's like, "You're from Mission Viejo?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Wow, that's a small world." But I mean, he was like putting on soccer in the locker room, and I'm like, "Dude, like, I don't really care that much about soccer. Take it off the street."
This sounds like Tanner with Shane is like you and me.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Tanner, good luck. Okay.
By the way,
we're-
tell Shane, know your teammates. Oh, wait, you're from Mission Viejo too? No way.
Stop
That's
it.
so cool, bro.
Anyway, Tanner, good luck, dude. It was awesome having you on here for the first time. You're great. You are not as shy as Andres. I will let you know. And we can say that because he's a good buddy of ours. Good luck. And if you don't get first, we at least hope you get second. So
Thank you.
We'll be
Thank
watching.
you. I
Thanks,
appreciate
man.
And hang on, Tanner.
What?
Ask voter when the first time he calls you, be like,
Oh.
hey, I'm a Rookie of the Year finalist. Like, do you mind if I shower in the coach's room? Just ask him that.
No backstory.
Just ask him. Just ask him.
All
Okay.
right. Okay.
Good luck. Good luck on that one.
Yeah, let's know
Cheers,
how that
Tanner.
goes, please.
Happy offseason, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Great stuff. Tanner Bibee of the Cleveland Guardians. That was great. I haven't gotten to
He's good.
speak with him. Yeah, he's great. Really fun. His style of answering questions is more of what the game needs. Does that make sense? Just talking.
Yeah, he's just hanging out.
You don't have to think like about what you're saying. Just hang out, talk. So, which
Yeah,
actually our next guest
I'm
is
telling
like
you,
that too.
every Guardians game I did, he pitched. It was like 4 for 4. I'm like, oh, give me guess. Bibee's pitching.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep.
Well, dude, that's lucky.
No, he was great.
First of all, he pitches
Listen,
well,
you're
and
not-
also the
listen,
games were nice and tidy.
There was some. I remember. Let's not forget. There were some locks I had with him over strikeouts that hit him.
He did well. Well, you watch him, you know.
High fastball.
All right, put that down, and let's bring up our next guest. He is a finalist for Cy Young, and he joins us right now. Kevin Gausman. Who you got behind you there, Mo and Doc? How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you guys? Yeah, I got Mo. I think my first year in the big leagues was Mo's last. Never got to meet Doc, but I got a Jeter jersey that I got my second year, and so I got some cool jerseys for sure. I kind of came at a good time, early on in my career. So there's some Yankee greats that I got to face and some cool moments. So yeah, I like to kind of keep some of those things up here.
I like it. So congrats on being a finalist for AL Cy Young. We keep it real here. Do you think you have a shot?
I'm gonna say no. I'm a realist. I watched Cole. I mean, he pitched against us, I think, 3 times in the last month. And each one was better than the last, and his last one was a CG shutout. And so, I understand kind of the season that he put together, and really the second half that he put together. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm a realist, but it's still cool to be a part of this group, and I have a ton of respect for Sonny Gray and Garrett, and both those guys I've watched for a long time and been fans of the way that they go about their work. They're completely different pitchers than me, and that's the cool thing. You look at really NL and AL, like every guy is different. Nobody has like the same stuff, and it's not just guys who throw hard. And I mean, I'm the only guy who throws a split in that group, so it's kind of cool. It's cool to be a part of those groups, and but yeah, I don't think I have a chance of winning it at all.
Yeah, that's a good. Hey, you know what? If you're not first, you're last. So I didn't
right.
say that. Someone else said that. Ricky Bobby. You guys, you're in this elite group of pitchers who dominated all season. Whether you win it or you don't, you were dominant. We bring this up all the time on the show, talking about the elite top 5 or 6 guys in the game any given year. Are you throwing the same pitch every single time in the sense that max effort, full out, or is there times when you can turn it up? You talked about watching Garrett Cole at the end of the month, at the end of the season, the last month, you're like, dang, he turned it on more. Are there times when you can dial it up and the rest of the time you're like, you know what, I can kind of cruise through here. Now I'm in a little traffic. Here's the real split.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing with me is trying to figure out what a team is, what the game plan is against the split. And usually most teams kind of give it away early on in the outing of what they're going to try to do against that, whether they're going to be super aggressive and hope that they can kind of, put together a couple good swings on it. Or you'll see teams that just come in and are like, their mentality is like, hey, if you see anything down, don't swing. And if he dodged 3 fastballs down the zone in a row, then tip your cap. And so that's one thing as the season went on, kind of recognizing that exactly. And I pitched up in the zone a lot early in the season, but as the season went on, that differential of the split was a little bit too big. And so I started pitching down in the zone with the fastball. And, I call it a kill shot. I like to pitch up in the zone, but I'll take my kill shots down and away really to righties and lefties. And I feel confident that if I can hit that spot, even if they do swing or if they take, it's going to be a strike. And if they swing, it's going to be weak contact. And so, but yeah, as the season goes on, I think there's certain games, certain teams, certain guys that you face that, kind of owned you earlier in your career that, yeah, you want to do well against them. Obviously you're facing, you really want to pitch well against them. And so that gives you that extra, like, kind of that FU mentality of like, you're going to throw it against you guys today.
Kevin, sorry about. I was at the Bama game on Saturday night, so I think they have another game this Saturday against another team. But I have to bring up a sore subject as I talk about Florida football because Scott loves it.
I don't care. He doesn't like it because he went to LSU.
They play each other this weekend. Dumbass, shut up.
Yeah, but our audience doesn't know that.
But he does. Kevin, this I hate to bring this up to you, but in the playoffs this year, A-Rod went on TV and said you were tipping. So did you only tell Royce Lewis what you were throwing and the rest of the team you forgot to tell them? Or was it just Royce Lewis? You went to him before the game and said, okay, if I do this, I'm throwing this pitch. If I do this. And the rest of the team, he punched out every guy. Was that the case?
Yeah, honestly, if you look at the film, and believe me, like I went back and looked at everything. I've tipped before plenty of times in my career, and I kind of know what to look for. And I truly believe that, listen, he was their best hitter the entire second half. And so if you make a mistake against him, he's a dynamic player. I'd never faced him before. And so, yeah, you miss 3-2 first inning. I'm trying to go fastball away, and I missed my spot by 3 feet. And it's, a good pitch to most righties, up and in. But he kind of got his hands to it and, obviously hit the crap out of it and hit up for a home run. And then next at bat, 3-1, I'm trying to throw strikes. I think I'd walked already 4 guys at that point. And so, he took me the opposite way. And so, but yeah, honestly, I don't think there was anything there. I just think he was hot and, I made mistakes. And, as you guys know, like you make mistakes against these guys, especially someone who's super confident and, swinging the bat really well, like they're going to make you pay for it. And so, I've had a million questions since, like, were you tipping? Do you think you were tipping? Like, I don't think so, but you're always going to look at the negatives and think, well, why did they do this? If you weren't, but I only give up 3 hits, and the other hit was a single. And so, I think they've always been a team my entire career that, for whatever reason, they have a great approach against me. They've always been that way. I think they're the highest ERA that I have against any team my entire career. There's been some nightmare outings against them over my career. I had a 9-run lead one game going into the 3rd inning, and by the end of the 5th, it was a tie ball game. And so, for whatever reason, they just always hit me well.
So now that you lost, we didn't think you were tipping anyway. Like that was a sarcastic question by AJ.
We knew he wasn't tipping. That's why I asked if he only told Royce Lewis.
It was bad analysis. And Jace Tingler,
I love
we
giving
talked
up
to people.
runs, So
yeah, exactly.
Like I said, you only chose one guy.
You only chose one guy.
Yes,
I don't want it for anyone else.
Yes,
it was just a bad call.
When you watch the rest of the World Series or rest of the playoffs, did you look at it and say the teams that you're watching, especially the fact that you guys lost 2 really close games? Yes, you didn't score runs, but you didn't give up any runs either. Did you sit there and go, dang it, like we could have made a run this year.
Oh, for sure. I think that's what's been the most frustrating in the last 2 years is that I think if you look at our roster from top to bottom, talent wise, I mean, we compare with any team in the big leagues, and if you're ranking a lineup or ranking a pitching staff, I think we had the second best ERA in all of baseball for starters. I think maybe one or second in our entire pitching staff. Our bullpen was incredible this year. And so, yeah, it's tough to watch and, watching, but, at the same time, like we played the Rangers towards the end of the season and they swept us in a 4-game series and, they beat the crap out of us. And it was kind of noticeable that like, they're a really good team and we need to play good baseball. And I think that's the biggest thing is, it's frustrating to watch because, you know that the talent is there. You just got to kind of put it together. And, we still have a pretty young group, but, we have everybody returning pretty much. And so that's kind of what gives us confidence to go forward. And I think the more heartbreak that you have in baseball, it usually kind of can help you out in the long run. And, I've been on the side of some unfortunate events in my career, but, it'll make hopefully, if we can make a run at it the next couple of years and hold one of those trophies, I think it'll make it that much sweeter.
Kevin, another thing. Were you surprised when they took out Barrios in game 2 after 47 pitches and no hits? Were you on the bench like the rest of us watching going, what the heck is happening right now?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we were all kind of shocked. But at the same time, we also knew. So going into that series, we knew that Kikuchi was going to pitch at some point. And if it was only 2 games, like they wanted to get him in that game because he's left-handed, and he did really well against Minnesota this past season. I think each outing that he had maybe was like top 3 or 4 outings of the season. And so he just matches up really well against that lineup. And so, we all kind of knew that, but at the same time, that's kind of the problem with the game right now is that, sometimes you make those decisions and, it's crazy because, they scored a run on a ground ball up the middle. If that ground ball goes a couple feet to the left and that's a double play to get out of the inning, nobody's saying anything. And so, you're always going to be questioned about the moves that you make that don't work out. And especially in the last game of the season when it's a win or go home situation. So it was unfortunate because, that kind of took away from how close our team was and just like the overall season that we had. We really had a great season. We were good at so many things. Our pitching staff was incredible. Our defense behind us was incredible, and that's why our pitching staff was so good. The fact that Alejandro Kirk caught the last 35 games in a row is absurd. He was incredible for us. The fact that he was able to do that was huge. And so it just kind of sucked that the narrative was what it was because it was just so negative, and that sucks as a player because there was so much positive to have over the last, 8 months, and then for one day, one decision to kind of be talked about and it's still talked about, for months. And so, and it'll probably be talked about in spring training. It's probably going to be the first question we're all going to be asked, and so it's unfortunate, but that's the reality of the business that we're in.
So I'll bring this big picture because you're always really well spoken on topics in the sport. If you're a commissioner for a day, you can do whatever you want. You can do one thing, you can do 5 things. It can be about the game, rules, it can be about the business, anything. What would you do?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think first I'd get rid of the disengagement rule. I mean, everybody's talking about all these guys stealing bags this year. Like, it's a direct correlation between we could only pick off twice, and that's absurd. And the clock is way too short. I love the clock. I think the clock is great for baseball, but I think it's too quick. And as a starting pitcher, I'm lucky enough to where I've had enough time in the league to where I can slow things down without having much time to do it. But early in my career, if I would have came up with the clock right now, I would have really struggled because you have a long inning, you're absolutely gassed, one, and two, you don't have the ability to go behind the mound and like pretend to tie your shoes, all these things that you learn how to do when you get to the big leagues. And granted, some of those guys are already learning it in the minor leagues. I think it's I think it's good for the game if you're a fan, but if you're a player, it sucks. I mean, it really does. It makes the game go faster, but what are we giving away with the games being faster? We're giving away guys having to hurry up and throw pitches. We saw a direct example. Chris Bassett had the bases loaded actually against the Rangers, and got to a situation where he had to disengage because he couldn't get the pitch. He's a different character. He throws 8, 9 different pitches. So he didn't get the pitch in time, and so he steps off. And so he steps off again, and so he has 2 disengagements. They have a left-handed hitter up at the plate, and so we're shifted. So Matt Chapman is playing essentially where the shortstop would play if it was a pull righty. And Mitch Garver is 3/4 of the way down the line. And as a pitcher, your entire life, when you see someone that far off, you step off and you start running at them. And that's exactly what Bassett did. And once, it was a close play, but not really. And Garver slid into third and then stands up and starts clapping and starts walking towards home because he gets the next base, So it's like, that's unfortunate. And I honestly thought I would see a lot more of these rules, especially the clock and all these disengagements, matter more in the postseason than the regular season because the game is so much faster in the postseason. And so I thought that those things would be kind of more exposed, I guess, and they weren't for whatever reason. And so, but yeah, that's probably the first thing I would do. I would get rid of those, and everybody talks about the stolen bases and like, that's great. It's great for the game, but the bags are 30% bigger, it's, people forget that. So the bang bang plays at second where the catcher got the guy out, and you guys both know there was a lot of those. Now the guy's safe easily. And so, now with all the sliding mitts that they're wearing, every guy has an extra 3-4 inches on the end of his fingers. And so you don't even have to be that good of a base stealer or base runner to take advantage of those things. And so, as a player, as a pitcher, it sounds like I'm complaining, but that's just kind of the reality of what I noticed over this past year. And I was a guy who had to change my mechanics because of this, and I felt like every time I pitched, there was a third base or a first base coach, really talking to an umpire over there, trying to get in his ear, like, hey, make sure he really stops. And, they changed the rule, like, make sure you understand the rule and all those things. And so, I just think that's the first thing I'd get rid of.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And you made an adjustment. Do you feel like your teammate, Alek Manoah, couldn't make the adjustment? Because you said, like, if you had just gotten called up and you had to, make this adjustment, obviously, he was in your position last year, Cy Young candidate, but still it's a young career, league's adjusting to him. Do you feel like that affected him? Or is there some other things that affected him? And what are you telling him so that you two can be an absolutely fearful 1-2 punch at the top of your rotation?
Yeah, to be honest, I think he went through some things in spring. I think he got off to a late start physically in spring. His shoulder just wasn't, listen, the guy pitched almost 200 innings in his first full year as a starting pitcher. I've only got that close one time in my career. And so I think when you're a 24, 25-year-old guy, you don't necessarily know the impact that's going to take on your body. And, I just think he came in and maybe tried to push it and, get ready for opening day a little too early. And I think he just kind of never got to a good spot with his arm and with his mechanics. And you could tell that, and it was unfortunate to watch because, yeah, I mean, that's the crazy thing about baseball is if this was this year and he put up those numbers, like he's running away with the Cy Young. He's winning it easily. And that's what's crazy about baseball. The guy had a 2.2 ERA last year and won 16 games, I think, and was incredible for us. And so, but mostly I kind of tell him, like, this game is not easy. Everybody's going to go through ups and downs. I'm a prime example of that. And so, I've been DFA'd before. I've been the best pitcher on the best team in baseball. I've been the worst pitcher on the worst team in baseball. And I've been everything in between. And so, I think it helped me to be able to talk to guys, and I think they can relate to me a little bit more than maybe, most of the, the aces or the 1s and 2s on the teams that kind of never went through that. But yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
That's a good pause. I want to ask him. I want to ask him if he's an ace or not. Back to like one of the first week discussions that we had.
I wrote that down.
I know. I was reading. I actually logged into your computer.
That's fine.
It's not hard. Password is password.
No, password is biceps.
Schmedium.
Both.
Medium biceps.
Baby gap.
Keep them coming, baby. Come on.
Hair product.
We'll bring him back. He's one of the, again, better interviews. He's thoughtful. So.
Oh, he's good. He's good.
And he touched on something I was going to ask. Like, this dude has been through the ringer. He's now been Cy Young, top 10 Cy Young finisher. He went 6th and 9th, and now this year he'll be top 3. I don't know where he's going to be. In the last 3 years, before that, he had 0 All-Star games. He had one season where he threw 34. He had 34 starts. Another one with 31. Like, this dude's he's been through it. Like, and he touched on that. That is, to me, that can be more valuable for a team than maybe somebody that's been dominant and then you come in and sign a contract. Like, he can talk to so many of these guys because he's been everything.
Do you know, this was Passan when he had signed. He reported Toronto was his top priority. He chose them over a better money offer from the Mets and felt right. And he liked the plan that was laid out by the front office. I like to look back on that stuff, especially once the guys are there and you can ask them about it. And, because when you ask, like, when it's right when they sign, they want to just talk about the new team. But then you can talk about life decisions. We've had that a few times, right? Where you talk to a guy. Who was it? Who was good? Like, did we talk to Wheeler about that?
Wheeler, yeah, he had more money from the White Sox and he went to Philly.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, I think the ace question is good. He's also coming from the Orioles, or at least that's where he was drafted. But I think they're an interesting team to get some thoughts on from him if we do get him back. Otherwise,
Text him. See what's crack-a-lagging.
What's
I think
the deal?
he thinks Scott hung up on him.
That could be. A lot of people think that. I've been known to ghost, but not for Kevin.
Oh, wait, now we see him.
He's coming back.
Oh, he back.
Oh, Sean said AJ broke my heart with that Tory news about Hunter not joining the Angels. Anyway,
all right, Kevin. Sorry you got cut off. Scott hung up on you. It's not your fault. It happens to all of us. You've been DFA'd. You've been this. You've been that. We've all been DFA'd, but you've never been hung up on Scott before.
Now Scott hung up on you.
Congratulations.
Bucket list.
You tell all your friends.
Okay, hold on. I think it's like the sound or something's all jacked up.
Oh no! Do you hear us better now or no?
No, he doesn't hear us. But we can like make faces.
Here, I'm gonna do sign language with you. Did you think Aaron Judge?
What are we doing?
You hear
Aaron
it?
Judge
You
was
hear it?
peeking at the catcher.
Peeking.
Okay,
Peeking.
yeah.
You hear us now?
All right, now it's clear. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you think Aaron Judge was peeking at the catcher?
Oh, what do you got?
Do you think Aaron Judge
Wow,
was
we have it?
peaking at something when he was hitting off you?
I don't know. So I pitched the next day. But yeah, it was a little strange. I mean, you guys know, like as catchers, you're always looking up at the hitter's eyes, right? And like if you make eye contact with it, not a good thing. But I'm never going to say that there was anything that he was actually doing. I don't think he needs to do that. You know, I think he might have been looking towards the dugout, like they might have had something coming from the dugout, but who knows? I think there's so much cameras and so many people investigating nowadays that if you're doing something like that, you're going to get caught, and they're going to see somebody in the dugout, holding a green card or something on a fastball. Like, you're going to get caught. And so I just don't believe that he was doing something. But yeah, it was pretty weird. It was a weird scenario. And I thought it was a little blown up by the media. And, and it doesn't help that he absolutely crushed us that series. And so everybody's thinking like, why is he, but he always hits home runs. He always does that. And so, like I said, he doesn't need to do that. He's a good enough hitter and so strong that he'll miss hit balls all the time and hit them 400 feet.
I had 7,000 at bats, so I never went like this to the dugout.
Yeah, but you also had 3 at bats. You had 3 at bats against Gausman, and you didn't get a single hit. So there's that. Maybe you should have been peeking.
True.
Past his prime.
Dude, I caught him. I was 40 when I faced Kevin. He was 20. He should have won.
That's right.
Can you hear us, Kevin? Just making sure. You still got us?
Yeah, I can hear y'all.
Okay, cool. Kratz, wait, I'm going to jump in. I have one question first because I haven't heard them talked about too much, but do you think there's any chance that the Blue Jays go after Shohei Ohtani? Oh, no. Kevin, no, he's good. He's good, Claude.
Yeah, I got
he hears
you.
us. He's fine. Do you think there's any chance the Blue Jays sign Shohei Ohtani? And if they asked you to help with the recruiting pitch, what would you do? Where would you take him? What would you tell him about Toronto? Because I know, didn't you pick Toronto over the Mets for a little less money?
I did, but my conversations with, people of power, and to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of New York City. And, I just kind of always felt like, no matter how much talent the Mets were bringing in, for some reason they kind of couldn't put it together. And so, that kind of had a little bit to do with my decision. Also, I've played in Toronto a lot. I made my debut in Toronto. But yeah, I don't know how I would recruit him. Like, I don't know Japanese, but I know that's got to help us a little bit. But yeah, I hope they sign him. Like, this is a guy that he's incredible. If he's healthy and can pitch and hit and DH, like, obviously he's having Tommy John. He's not going to be able to pitch for a little bit, but he can still DH. He can still play the outfield. He's a guy that he brings in so much excitement just to the ballpark. And you saw that in LA the last couple of years. There was thousands upon thousands of people that were going to the games just to watch him. And when he pitched, it was cool. It was cool. I faced him. I got to pitch against him in LA when I was with the Giants. And there's just a buzz around the stadium about going to watch him play. And there's not many players in the game that can kind of take over an entire ballpark the way that he can. And, if he's on a night and he strikes out 10 and hits a home run, like, the place is going crazy. It's cool and it's unique. And, we're never going to see it again. And, we just got to kind of enjoy it while it lasts, because you don't know how long he's going to be able to do both, right? I hope he can for a really long time, but he's in uncharted territory when it comes to, like, nobody can give him advice on how to do both. Like, there's nobody that can tell him that. So we just.
Did you vote for the Players' Choice Awards, or did you hand it off to one of your clubbies to fill it out?
The Players' Choice Awards. Yeah, I voted, of course.
You voted? Okay. Did you get it right or wrong? Who should have been the Player of the Year, Acuna or Shohei?
I think I voted for Shohei. But I mean, I'm a pitcher, so I recognize how hard it is to pitch, and like, I couldn't imagine pitching and someone being like, "Hey, you're DHing today," the next day, like I'm sitting in the dugout, like, chewing on seeds for the next 3 hours on the days after I pitch, like, just soaking it in. And this guy is out here facing some of the best pitchers in the game the next day and doing really well. And so, I just can't imagine how much, like, extra time he has to spend to get his body right every single day. And so that's why I voted for him.
Well, Kevin, much like your Tigers are going to be on Saturday night.
No.
What?
Acuna won.
No,
Yeah, he
Acuna
won.
should not have won.
Well, he did. So he shoulda, woulda, coulda. But
And
he
this
won.
is one of his old teammates.
No, and I mean, I agree. Acuna had an unbelievable season. I think he was the first 60 and 40 or
70, 40, 70, or whatever. What was it? 73?
47.
he never had to
Whatever,
throw a nasty slider 3-2 to punch a guy out in a big spot. Like, it's just different. And so I recognize,
You're right.
it's, and so that's why I voted for him.
Kicker bias is real.
You're right.
Kev, we're getting bad connection on you, but we
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're getting a little spotty. It was going well for a while, but it's going in and out a little bit. But dude, this was great. We appreciate you coming on. It's great to have you on here for the first time. This platform is up your alley. People wanted to hear from you. Perfect timing here as a finalist, but a real talk finalist. So good luck. We'll still be seeing if your name gets called, but I like the honesty on the AL Cy Young stuff, dude. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry about my Wi-Fi. I got to upgrade.
It's all good. It's all good. I know a guy. We'll have our guy call your guy. Thanks, Kev. See you later, dude. Good stuff.
Big league pitcher, minor league Wi-Fi.
True.
That's why he didn't want to play for the Yankees, because maybe if he would have paid for the Wi-Fi, he could get the full package.
And he would have been traded to
Cashman's
the
watching.
Rangers.
Be careful.
And he would have been traded to the Rangers if he'd signed with the Mets.
Oh, or the Astros.
Or the Astros. He'd been traded to Texas.
He'd have a ring.
If he was on the Rangers. Yeah. That was some real talk answer right there.
I love his answer. Well,
Say
I
that.
don't think I'm going to win. Well, at least he knows.
And he didn't like the city. Cool. Like,
people don't like all cities.
Which is fine. I want to hear that. I mean, come on. If someone is in a similar money range, they're going to have a preference based on org, based on city. I mean, you guys tell me no. Every guy
100%.
that
If
signs.
the money's
Obviously, if
close.
the money is far, far off, there's almost never a case where a guy's going to be like 30 mil less. Although there's been a few recently, actually, surprisingly. Like the Trey Turner Padres situation was real, and it was a much bigger offer.
Aaron Judge allegedly.
Aaron
too.
Judge, much bigger offer. So it's happened. It also, I guess, for some of these guys, starts to get just stupid, where they're like, "All right, 330 mil or 300. I think I'm good." So anyway, and there is tax stuff, which goes beyond my
Toronto will
knowledge.
get you on taxes.
Whoa. Oh, they'll get you good. They'll
get you good, Ricky.
Exactly. All right, let's slap. All right, you go first, Kratz Hats, and then I got a little thing to thank.
Where they're going to have the draft after we take over that, John? Omaha Storm Chasers.
It's a great name. Kratz Hats went like very minorly viral yesterday. It's just perfect timing. He did the 4-leaf clover Brewers hat and said,
Good
best
luck.
of luck.
Yeah.
Thought it was good. So
I'm gonna have one of those with the White Sox. Should I start wearing it every day?
yeah. You're gonna steal his bit?
You won't.
Okay. I want to send out a thank you. We've had a number of prospects on this show for the first time. We brought on prospects from the Arizona Fall League, picked some pretty good timing to have some of the better prospects. So just wanted to thank the AFL because their season's coming to a close. So they were very helpful in us saying, hey, can we talk to this guy? And they hooked it up. So Chuck Fox and Josh Schwam with the league, thank you for bringing us those players. Appreciate you. And AFL ends regular season tonight, and then the championship is this weekend. So cheers to everybody there. And then we'll be back tomorrow with, I know, at least Ken Rosenthal and Jan Gomes, correct?
Oh, and wait till you hear
tomorrow?
the Jan Gomes miss story that we have based on some breaking news that just happened. But Jan will hopefully laugh about it.
By the way, Kratz, go ahead. You're going to tell the Jan Gomes story.
Oh, I wasn't going to.
No,
No,
tomorrow.
it's just it was Mark's. It was Mark's fault, by the way. So anyway.
Oh, perfect. FYI, if I don't make it back next week, I'm going to the EDC with Scott this weekend for the first time ever.
That's like saying the MLB.
Yeah,
EDC.
that was so cringy. So are you not
what do you
on
call
tomorrow?
it?
Are you not
EDC.
on tomorrow, AJ?
No, it's Friday. I
No.
take Fridays off, bro.
He
I
needs to-
got a Folds of Honor golf tournament tomorrow.
He also needs
I
to just
support the military.
cleanse before he gets to his Sunday night experience.
I got a long weekend, dude. I got to play in a golf tournament for Folds of Honor tomorrow. Then I got to fly to St. Louis. They're having a memorial for Tim McCarver,
Okay.
which I'm going to have to
You're
talk
speaking.
at, which is
I
going
know.
to be rough because I'm supposedly following Bob Costas and Joe Buck.
Oh my gosh.
And then me.
Wow.
Yeah, oh wow.
I need a live stream of that one.
Yeah, Ken will be there so I can talk to him. I can get all the info from Ken. And then Sunday fun day.
Sunday,
Who's
AJ.
going to be at EDC with me? And Scott. I can't wait to see Pez popping from Scott.
AJ is a raver now. He will learn what plur means, P-L-U-R, for the baseball crowd. It's good for everyone to know. I'll send this to Insomniac. They run EDC. They're the
Insomniac cookies?
Oh,
best.
Insomniac
No,
cookies?
way better than the cookies.
Give me some of them peanut
That's
butter Johns with some
Insomniac.
ice cream.
This has a C on it, and they're great. So
wait, I just want to know, what do I got to wear?
full uniform from AJ on Sunday. We'll see you on Friday.
Full uniform, just the top button. Everything else open.
Open.